In the city in which the events unfold, it was raining, clouds were gathering in the sky, and residents were rushing about their business. It was 2022, the weather was not at all pleasing to people, and splashes from motorcycle wheels were scattered everywhere. The events take place in a small store with a lot of ready-made food. A knock was heard inside it. In the store, someone was playing checkers, he was eagerly making his moves, knocking chips on the board. A middle-aged man played xiangqi. He was confused and did not understand what move to make next. The man looked at the board in surprise. A young guy was playing with him, he had just checked a man and was very pleased with his game. Their game ended with the guy winning. The man proved to him that he had almost won and that he simply lacked 13 moves. The guy got up from the table and told the man not to run into trouble. The man kept sitting, looking at the game board, he tried to understand what he did wrong, that he lost. The man was very angry that he lost again. It was still raining non-stop outside, and the sun had no intention of peeking out from behind the clouds. The man was already tired of giving the guy money, he had just won 20 yen from Lao Li and Lao Zhang this morning and immediately lost everything to this young man. The guy took his money from a jar in a store. He wouldn't have to take the man's money if those two wanted to play with him, besides, he gets the money, and the men will retain their dignity. The man believed that the guy was misleading him, he did not believe his words and said that everything that the guy taught him was complete nonsense. The young man sat down at the gaming table again, he asked how, in this case, the man won this morning against those two. The man began to place the pieces on the game board again. The man wanted to play with the guy again and see how much his playing skills had improved. The guy didn't mind doing it. The guy tuned in, he closed his eyes and took a deep breath. The young man was very concentrated. The rain poured down all around, the houses rose unshakably above the gray streets. Leaves, torn from the trees by the wind, slowly floated in the sky. The guy was still sitting with his eyes closed at the gaming table, the raindrops around him began to fall slower and slower. At some point, the drops completely froze, apparently, this was the guy's strength. The young man began to see some events from the past, he had a vision of someone playing with this man, and an elderly woman walking past. One of them, in the guy's vision, made his move with a saber. The man followed him, and he also made his move. An elderly woman then walked next to them, she was also holding an umbrella, and a little girl with 2 pigtails was running nearby. The girl approached the woman who was holding a bag of food. The child was very happy to see her. In the guy's vision, the rain was still pouring intensely, the puddles did not allow residents to calmly walk along the street. All these events moved in the guy's head like a film, the pictures changed one after another. The guy was in some special world of his mind, where knowledge was collected in cassette tapes, as if in a huge library. The young man took one of these tapes from the shelf, a bright light appeared from it, and the same film with the events looked out. It was hard for the guy to perceive so much information at once, the films flew out of the cassette more and more intensely. The guy was transported to the real world. He sighed heavily and knew exactly what the man's problem was. The essence of the 13 techniques for abandoning a horse lies in the 6th step of entering the chariot and abandoning the horse, which is a trump card for breaking the line of defense. The guy saw a man playing with this old man in Wangqing Park. The guy believed that if a man learned 13 techniques for rejecting a knight this week, defeating that man would not be difficult. The man poked one of the chips in the young man's face. The guy was surprised. He asked that if he could beat that man in a week, then when would he be able to beat the guy himself? The young man proudly replied that even after 500 years a man has no chance of beating him in this game. The man was wondering why the guy left school so early today, was it really his day of self-study? The guy looked at the man coldly, he clearly did not want to answer this question. The young man said that he was waiting for someone. The man suggested that the guy go to the xiangqi championship, since he was so good at it, the young man had every chance of winning a prize. The guy simply remembered a lot of gaming strategies, but this does not make him a pro, because a good memory does not give good analytical skills. Meanwhile, someone was approaching the small store, it was a girl in high heels, a man in a formal suit, and also a child. At this time, the rain gradually stopped, the clouds in the sky began to disperse and the first rays of the sun peeked out from behind them. The child noticed that the rain had stopped and wanted to tell his mother about it. At this time, the guy turned around, his attention was attracted by a family walking down the street. The woman who was the boy's mother looked at the guy coldly. They clearly knew each other. The family with the child stood directly opposite the guy. They silently looked at each other. An awkward silence hung in the air as water from the streets slowly flowed into the drains on the roads. The guy didn't know what to say. He had already opened his mouth, but he couldn't squeeze out a word. The guy's hand began to shake nervously. He tried to calm down, but he failed. The woman had no face when she saw the guy. Her son asked his mother what happened. The woman didn't answer him. She still looked at the guy excitedly, but didn't say anything. Finally, the woman said the guy's name, Qin Chen. She looked full of regret. Qin Chen smiled at the woman, but his eyes betrayed all the bitterness that he hid within himself. The guy turned around and walked away from the family. He still couldn't find what to say to the woman. The woman stood and watched as Qin Chen walked further and further away. She headed towards the store. The woman approached Uncle Zhang. She asked why Qin Chen came to play xiangqi again. It turns out that the woman was the guy's mother. The man replied that the guy had no living expenses, so he could earn himself some money by playing xiangqi. The woman sends money to Qin Chen's father every month. She didn't understand. Shouldn't he be self-studying that night? Uncle Zhang replied that the guy seemed to be saying that he was waiting for someone. The woman was going to go to his house and look. Her husband was against it, because today was Hao Hao's birthday and they had already booked a table. He believed that the guy was already an adult and could take care of himself, and besides, he had his own father. Wan Fong clenched her teeth. She was torn between her two children, and did not know what to do. As a result, the woman agreed to her husband's proposal. Meanwhile, Qin Chen returned to his home. He slowly opened the door of his apartment with the key. The guy abruptly slammed the door to his apartment as soon as he entered. The walls of the apartment were shabby, the ceiling was leaking. Qin Chen took the phone and started to call Hu. Inside his house there were empty beer bottles strewn all over the place. The subscriber the guy called did not pick up for a long time. Apparently all these banks belonged to his father. Qin Chen called his father. He thought that his son was bothering him to ask for money for maintenance. The man did not have any. He advised him to turn to the guy's mother, because she is now rich. The guy replied that he did not need money and had not asked his father for it for a long time. The man asked what his son needed then. He was sitting at the table and playing some kind of gambling. Qin Chen's father asked if he was called to the school again for a parent-teacher meeting. He again advised him to turn to his mother in this kind of matter. Qin Chen hung up the phone. He didn't want to communicate with such a person anymore. The guy took a deep breath. Things were scattered everywhere in the apartment. The atmosphere was very depressing. It was 6 in the evening. The guy looked at the time on his phone. There was a timer on the guy's forearm that could not be erased by anything. It showed 5 hours, 58 minutes and 12 seconds, the numbers on the hand glowing blue. Qin Chen took a deep breath and rubbed the numbers on his hand. The guy put on a sweater, trying to hide this strange timer on his hand. He didn't know how this countdown would end. Qin Chen thought that he could be dangerous. The guy was going to go somewhere. The guy thought that this could be another life. He looked sadly at his apartment. The guy abruptly closed the door. He needed to go to the market, because his father was not able to take care of him. The young man decided to go to a hardware store, then to a pharmacy and a supermarket. He needed to buy a lot of things there. It was already getting dark outside. Clouds also covered the entire sky, blocking the moonlight. The street lights flickered. The guy came back to his home. There were bottles and other garbage everywhere. The light came through the window with bars. He prepared a first aid kit and placed a flashlight next to it. Qin Chen was clearly preparing for something. The guy also hid something under the pillow. He was expecting some trouble. When Qin Chen didn't know what he was going to face, all he could do was prepare for it as much as possible. The guy laid out a set of tools on his bedside table: wrench, screwdrivers, pliers. It was a dark night and it was still raining outside, which had started during the day. He drummed on the roof. The guy was sitting on his bed and couldn't go to bed. He was scared. Qin Chen didn't know if he should find help to cope with all the strange events around him. The guy didn't understand who he could ask for help. His hands were shaking with fear. Qin Chen was still wondering who he should find, who would be competent in this matter. He was very worried about recent events. He believed that it was useless to ask ordinary people for help with such a strange question, and he didn't really have any friends at school. The guy took out a Buddha amulet made of green stone. He placed it on the first aid kit and bowed. Qin Chen lay down on his bed, his preparations completed. The guy picked up the phone and sighed heavily. He was going to ask one of his contacts for help. His phone book included his mother and Nan Gegchen. Qin Chen recalled his recent meeting with his mother, her cold expression. He didn't think she was a good option. The boy also could not trust his father, because he played gambling all day long and did not raise the young man. The guy recalled events from the past. His mother did nothing wrong. As a child she was very nice to him, spent a lot of time gambling, house sales, domestic violence. It was all in his mother's life. The guy had memories flashing before his eyes, like on a film reel. He remembered all the sins of his father, his terrible attitude towards his wife and his child. One day, his father beat Qin Chen's mother and told her to get out. The woman did so. The guy believes that his father is to blame for everything that is happening to him now. He looked sadly at his fragments of memories. At that time, there was nothing wrong with his mother's voluntary divorce. The woman then collected all her things and left the house, leaving the child. Qin Chen should be happy for her choice because it was the right decision and the best for the woman herself. Everyone around him told his mother that she would not be able to start a new family with her teenage son as ballast, and no one would marry her. Wanfang cried bitterly. It was Qin Chen's decision to live with his father so as not to burden his mother's fate even more. Even then, he understood what would be the right thing to do to make his mother happy. He decided to let her go. Qin Chen was lying on his bed. He took a photo of his hand, which had a countdown on it, but it did not appear in the photo. The guy thought that this might be the last 2.5 hours of his life, because perhaps the countdown was leading to the death of the young man. Qin Chen didn't understand how his end could be so simple, because he had not yet achieved much in life. The guy decided to stop lying around and feeling sorry for himself. He got on his bike and quickly rushed off somewhere. It was hard for the wheels to get through the puddles. The guy thought that there were really a lot of regrets in this life and there were so many things that he didn't dare to do. Qin Chen drove faster and faster along the highway. He believed that today he did not need to shake with fear, he needed courage. The guy was breathing heavily. It was cold outside. It was difficult for Qin Chen to drive on the rainy street, but this did not stop him. He drove forward. The guy suddenly braked near a building. He knew what he wanted to do. Someone was swearing in a room in this building. Qin Chen called the policeman and said that he wanted to report the Longtan community. In room 201, in the second block, in building 17, people were gathering there to gamble. The policeman took the guy's call. They said that they would now arrive at this place and sort everything out. Qin Chen sighed and put the phone in his pocket. It did its job. This was the place where his father played. The guy got on his bike and was ready to leave until he was noticed. The guy rushed away along the highway, while the rain was still pouring down around him, loudly pounding on the roofs of passing cars. The guy turned around sadly. He was not entirely sure that he had done the right thing by handing over his father to the police. His face was illuminated by the lights of passing cars. The guy clenched his teeth and was depressed. A police car sped down the road right behind him, turning on its siren and heading towards Qin Chen's call. The guy drove down a busy street. Townspeople were walking around. Everyone was busy with their own business. Qin Chen returned to his home. It was a dark night outside. Qin Chen opened the door of his apartment and walked into it. All the guy's clothes were wet to the skin. He thought it would be better to undress. The guy grinned. In the end, he believed that he had done the right thing. Rainwater dripped from his hair. The timer on the guy's hand had 52 minutes and 30 seconds remaining. Qin Chen changed his clothes and put on a different jacket. The guy left a note on his desk. There was less and less time left. The timer already had 31 minutes. The guy quickly collected his backpack and threw it over his shoulders. The countdown showed 1 minute. And at this time, life was in full swing throughout the city. They did not even suspect what was happening to the guy. Uncle Zhang took goods to his store. The police had already arrived on call and were about to arrest the men who were gambling, including Qin Chen's father. The timer was counting down the last seconds. The guy had 7 seconds left. He sat quietly and waited on the bed. At this time, a little girl looked out the window. she carefully looked at the raindrops falling from the sky. There were already 4 seconds left on the timer. Qin Chen picked up a knife and sat in his room, waiting for something terrible to happen. At this time, his mother and her new family were celebrating the birthday of their child. Her whole family looked happy. Finally the clock showed 1 second, the guy was ready for any outcome. The timer has completed its countdown. At that moment, the whole world around changed, neon lines of outlines of objects appeared around. Lightning flashed around, it was clearly some other world. It was 12 at night. Qin Chen was in a stupor, he did not understand what was happening around him, what these hours meant. The guy was scared, he was not ready for such unexpected events. Qin Chen stood up from the bed, and at that moment the world around him cracked. Everything around crumbled into tiny particles, as if glass had broken. Qin Chen was confused. He stood in front of the broken glass, unable to move. At that moment, a computer matrix with a binary code appeared in front of the guy, which showed 010101. Qin Chen did not understand what was happening around him, his familiar world was splitting into pieces. Everything around was glowing blue, this world seemed unreal, something strange was happening. Even events from the past were split into thousands of fragments. Qin Chen recalled spending time with his mother. Qin Chen did not understand where he was sucked deeper and deeper into a whirlwind of incomprehensible energy. The guy saw a light in the distance, the rays spread around, and the guy was moving somewhere. Qin Chen woke up in some new world, he was also lying on the bed, but the room looked different. Qin Chen was also wearing different clothes. The guy opened his eyes, he didn't understand what happened and what he just saw. Qin Chen got out of bed, he was in some new world or another reality. The knife disappeared from his hands, the guy rolled up his sleeves to look at the timer on his forearm. On his hand was a new countdown to his return, it was 48 hours, that is, 2 days. Qin Chen looked at his hand in surprise. The guy buttoned up his shirt and tried to understand what was happening around him. He was still in his body, and after all, the prince, the location of the pores could not be faked, but the clothes were different. He thought that he had entered another dimension, probably when the counter runs out, the guy will return back. Qin Chen thought that even if not everyone was waiting for him, it was still good to have a place to return to. The guy looked around, wanting to understand what kind of room this was. The room was more like a cell, he saw a glass door, everything around was glowing, the walls were made of metal. There was a mug with a toothbrush on the floor, and the guy's shoes were also standing. Taking a closer look, Qin Chen saw a wash basin that stood on the shelf. Everything around was signed with glowing signs. Qin Chen felt the wall, he didn't understand what kind of place this was with such expensive building materials. At that moment, something strange began to happen around, a loud sound was heard, the guy looked around. There were no weapons in the room, so the first thing that came to mind was to pick up a toothbrush and defend myself with it. Qin Chen stood near the glass door and carefully looked out of it. At that moment, the door opened, neon light began to come out of it. Qin Chen watched everything that was happening in surprise, he was scared and looked at the door in bewilderment. From behind the glass, a stream of light poured directly onto the guy, blinding his eyes. Qin Chen looked outside the open door in surprise, he still had no idea about this new world. A voice was heard from behind the door, he announced the time, 7 in the morning, it was breakfast time, all prisoners were asked to line up and go to the dining room. Qin Chen was surprised to find that he was in prison, his uniform had a code of 010101. The guy decided to listen to the voice, he hesitantly stepped outside his cell. The prison had many cells similar to Qin Chen's room. A man in a suit was broadcast on the screen, delivering information to the prisoners. Many people and others came out of their cells for breakfast, among them there were unusual creatures, they all gloomily walked to breakfast. The guy still didn't understand where he was and what was happening, he had never seen such unusual places before. The prison was huge and had many floors with identical cells. Qin Chen looked at this unusual world in surprise. The man's voice on the screen kept telling the prisoners to go to the cafeteria and line up. The creatures were completely different, some had long white hair, some stomped loudly as they walked along the corridor. At this moment, Qin Chen encountered a man, he had a very angry look, his face looked like a human, but with metal inserts. The man looked at the guy angrily, his eyes were unusual, they looked more like the eyes of a robot. Qing Chen looked into the red eyes of one and the prisoners in a daze, something he had never seen before. The guy realized that these were prosthetic eyes. He thought that perhaps he was in a mechanical civilization. At that moment, someone greeted the guy and called him a newcomer. This prisoner pinned Qing Chen against the wall. He had a huge mechanical arm. He was clearly not friendly. Qing Chen looked at the man in surprise. He thought it was better not to run into trouble. Behind this man, more prisoners gathered. They looked at Qing Chen terribly, not allowing him passage. The man told Qing Chen not to eat too much, otherwise it will be ugly when he vomits everything here. Everyone laughed. Qing Chen looked at the man's metal hand in surprise. He understood that he was unlikely to cope with his strength. All the prisoners began to talk. They heard that 12 newcomers arrived last night and today they can have fun. They were surprised that the newcomer did not have a single mechanical limb and did not seem to have any external connections. Qing Chen wondered if these men knew that he was from another dimension. Perhaps they just meant that he was here for the first time. The fact that they wanted to have fun did not bode well. A loud scream was heard in the prison. Qing Chen turned around. Someone screamed in panic and asked what this place was. The guy saw someone running down the corridor. He wanted to go home and did not want to stay in this damn place. Apparently it was one of the new ones. The guy's name was Huang Jixian. His father was the chairman of the Win Group Corporation from the city of Luo. One of the prisoners tripped the guy and he fell to the floor. The prisoners laughed loudly. They did not know where this city was. Qing Chen recognized the guy. He was his acquaintance from the foreign language school, who studies a grade lower. It seems that the guy is not the first and not the last here. Perhaps the places before the intersection are close to the place after the intersection. At that moment, a drone flew over the prison, notifying about some unforeseen situation. The next moment, more drones arrived. They asked to stop. All the prisoners raised their eyes in surprise and looked at the drones. There was also a large white cat in the prison. He yawned lazily while lying near the xiangqi board. The drones asked all prisoners to stand still. The cat looked at these flying cars with a very unreasonable look. A large number of robots ran out, heading to stop the riots. Qing Chen looked at them with confusion. They did not understand what kind of commotion was happening in the prison. All the robots and drones ran straight towards Huang Jixian and pointed their weapons at him. The guy was very scared. Qing Chen believed that meeting old acquaintances in a foreign land did give a sense of security, but it depended on the person. In his opinion, being a fellow countryman does not always help, and can even become a threat in this unusual world. Two prisoners were talking. One of them thought that the newcomer was somehow cowardly. Maybe he was just a fool. Another heard that he was sentenced to 7 years in prison for tax evasion. The prisoners believed that in their time people who got involved with tax collectors were either crazy or very stupid. Two prisoners approached Qing Chen. They put their hands on his shoulders and asked him if he was ready. Qing Chen didn't quite understand what they were talking about. He didn't like this attitude on their part. The prisoners kept going down to the first floor, where the prison canteen was located. The prisoners took their food and sat down at the tables in the cafeteria. Some have not yet managed to descend. Qing Chen looked down intently. He was thinking about how he could get out of this situation. There were many empty tables downstairs. Some prisoners were paired up and eating breakfast with each other. Qing Chen kept watching as the prisoners sat down at the tables in the dining room. They seemed to have some kind of principle. The guy realized something. His attention was drawn to one of the tables below. The guy had a feeling that everyone was avoiding one of the tables at the very edge. Behind him sat a man in white clothes. Two prisoners stood next to him. They were not eating. This man was middle-aged. He was holding a xiangqi chip in his hands and was thinking intensely about something. The man had number 1 on his uniform. Behind his table lay a large white cat, and in front of him was a xiangqi board. Qing Chen looked down at the man in surprise. He believed that this could be some important person in this prison. Meanwhile, the prisoners were having breakfast in the dining room, discussing recent events. They thought that all these new guys were stupid idiots, and there was a cry from the next table about how to work harder. Somewhere in the dining room, some prisoners threatened others. Someone asked to let him go, because he would do whatever his offenders wanted. Someone asked for silence, because everyone knows what they do with those who shout so loudly. It was noisy in the dining room. Qing Chen's gaze was attracted by the same man around whom there was complete silence. The guy thought that perhaps it was the warden. but he quickly discarded this thought. Even though he was wearing different clothes, he still had a number embroidered on his uniform. Qin Chen realized that this man was also a prisoner, but was somehow different from the others. Behind this man stood another prisoner. He was a guy with blonde hair. The guy noticed that Qin Chen was looking at him and smiled slyly at him. The announcer ordered all prisoners to go to the cafeteria in order of priority. The prisoners did not understand why the line was moving so slowly today. Qin Chen observed the behavior of the prisoners. They all knew each other and talked about everyday things. Someone next to Qin Chen said that it all depends on today's newcomers. The guy noticed that the prison had 7 floors, 18 drones near the ceiling, 10 drones with video surveillance, 3 with weapons. And including the guy, there are 3,102 people here. At this moment, Qin Chen heard someone scream. That person asked to let him go. The guy was held by 2 prisoners. One of them told the other to urgently hold him, because he shouldn't get hurt here. The 2 had to be wary of the guard's interference. Another said that he was not a fool and asked him to calm down. At this moment, the line was moving forward. Someone told Qin Chen to look around. It was the same man with the mechanical eye that Qin Chen had seen before. He said that his turn would soon come. The guy looked at the man in surprise. He was confused. Qin Chen didn't answer. He didn't really understand what line the man was talking about. All the prisoners took their food and were about to take their places. They wondered if it was edible. All the prisoners around looked at the newcomers with suspicion. They sat and had breakfast. One prisoner pointed at Qin Chen. They clearly wanted to deal with him. Other men were also going to get involved. The guy noticed this group of prisoners in time and was not the least bit afraid. One of the men was stretching his shoulder. He had a mechanical arm and was about to walk right up to the guy. Qin Chen lowered his gaze. He had a stony expression on his face. He understood what was about to happen. At that moment, the guy rushed across the dining room with his food. He ran very quickly. The offenders did not expect such a quick reaction from the guy. They rushed right after him. The man with the mechanical arm swung at the guy. He was about to hit him, grinning slyly. Qin Chen deftly turned and slid right under the man. The guy had excellent physical abilities. He didn't even drop his food. The guy grabbed the banana in his teeth and sped up. Qin Chen jumped over another man who was about to attack him. He ran straight towards that special prisoner's desk. The guy's offenders fell to the floor when they couldn't hit the young man. The prisoners, lying on the ground, shouted that they needed to grab him before the guards found out about this incident. At this moment, one of the prisoners was very surprised at what he saw in front of him. Qin Chen ran straight to the special prisoner. Everyone else stopped, not daring to run after him. One of his offenders grinned and thought that the guy considers himself the smartest, and if he thinks that he will protect him, then this is not so. Everyone was interested to see this. Qin Chen desperately ran forward carrying his food. It seemed like he had a plan. Right in front of him sat a special prisoner with his subordinates. Someone stopped Qin Chen with his palm. The guy was very surprised. It was the white-haired guy. He said that he knew what the new guy was counting on. The man sat at his desk looking bored and had a stony expression on his face. The guy with white hair said that they would not help him. All the prisoners lined up in a circle and carefully watched what was happening. Qin Chen needed to stop hoping for this plan. Everyone around him laughed. The white-haired guy asked who Qin Chen thought this high-ranking person was. Qin Chen said with a cold expression that he was a former Qin member. All the prisoners around laughed at Qin Chen, because his idea seemed stupid and useless to them. The guy saw the man's board for Xiangqi and said that he could handle this game. The prisoners were in a stupor at such a self-confident proposal from the guy. The young man with white hair was also surprised by this, because no one had offered this to his boss before. The high-ranking man moved the chips. He began the game of Xiangqi. The man made a move. The bishop retreated from 5 to 7. They had to continue. The white-haired guy was very surprised that his boss accepted Qin Chen's offer. The guy activated his ability and began to calculate his moves ahead. This position on the board is called capturing the king. Both sides seem equal in strength, but in fact black has one move left to win. According to the system, Qin Chen, as red, must agree to a draw, even if the outcome of the game is obvious. It was impossible to draw. The guy made his move, a pawn from 2 to 3. The man understood everything. He was going to continue playing with Qin Chen. The man made the following move, the general of 6 goes for 1. And Qing Chen is his, the back rook goes to 4. The game continued, all the prisoners watched the game in shock, they had not seen this before. Qing Chen moved like a rook, from 1 to 4. The guy slowly began to approach the man's table. They exchanged parties very quickly, the man moved the general from 4 to 5. The guy responded by moving his pawn from 4 to 5. Qing Chen sat down at the man's table, still wearing the same cold expression. Qing Chen made his move, a pawn from 5 to 1. He was confident in his game. The guy checked the man, Qing Chen was pleased with his victory. The man looked at him angrily, he had to admit defeat. At this moment, one of the chips flew into the air, their game ended with Qing Chen winning. The man abruptly dropped the chip and jumped up from the table. He noticed that the guy was young, but there was not a drop of hesitation during the game. The man was curious, because in their days there were not many players in Xiangqi, the man was going to continue the game tomorrow. The man stood up from the table, his cat stretched lazily, and his 2 subordinates followed the man. All the prisoners began to talk among themselves, they were surprised by what they had just seen. This high-ranking person lost. Everyone else did not understand what had just happened, because they had never played Xiangqi. The prisoners did not understand who could have such fun, because more profitable pleasure comes either from a chip for direct enjoyment or consciousness for entering virtual networks. The guy with white hair was called Lin Xiaoxiao, the guy patted Qing Chen on the shoulder and introduced the second guard, his name was Yi Wang, they were supposed to see each other tomorrow. This meant that Qing Chen should be safe today. He calmly listened to the white-haired guy. All events were constantly monitored by cameras, they recorded everything that happened in this prison. The camera aimed directly at the young man, Qing Chen attracted the attention of the jailers. The camera zoomed in on Qing Chen, trying to figure out who this guy was. At this moment, Qing Chen turned around sharply and was disturbed by someone from behind. It was one of the prisoners, he grabbed the guy by the leg and tearfully asked him to help him, because they were all coming here. The guy was ready to do anything to protect him. Qing Chen looked at this prisoner indifferently, he was in no hurry to help him. The man was very scared, he had no chance of surviving in this prison. At that moment, someone grabbed this prisoner by the head and was about to deal with him. He was captured by 2 prisoners. The guy shouted that his uncle was the director of Changmin Company in City 17. His abuser said that except for the Big 5, the rest of the companies are not worth mentioning, let alone this one, even if his uncle came here, everything is fair. This guy was dragged away, he screamed loudly and asked to be saved. Qing Chen watched this indifferently. Qing Chen estimated that today 10 new prisoners had already suffered at their hands, and out of 12, only Qing Chen and that suffering youth were an earthling. Apparently there are very few people who got here. The guy didn't understand why, but after learning about this prisoner, he didn't feel depressed at all, on the contrary, he felt a little hope. On Earth, Qing Chen seemed to be superfluous, he was a burden, and his mother had a new family, relatives also very rarely came. Without this countdown, in the future, Qing Chen would be able, thanks to his memory, to enter a good university far from home, then leave there forever. However, such a life in this prison again had some meaning. Qing Chen kept remembering his past life, how unhappy and lost he was then. After all, this world is very different, for a guy it's like throwing off shackles. Qing Chen now has hope, life here is fundamentally different from life on Earth. At this moment, someone called Qing Chen and said that the guy had finally arrived. It was one of the prisoners, he approached Qing Chen and said that the young man was really handsome and the rumors did not lie. Qing Chen became embarrassed and immediately jumped away from the guy. He didn't understand who he was. The guy's name was Lu Guani, he came here 3 months ago. Qing Chen could call him Xiao Lu. The guy extended his hand to him. Qing Chen greeted. From Xiao Lu's words, it is clear that he knows Qing Chen, and also uses polite address. So the opponents looked at Qing Chen 21 times in just over an hour, and these are only those who are in his field of vision, a few people near him must be under Xiao Lu's command. Qing Chen didn't know if he had any hidden meanings behind him or the way he addressed him. Qing Chen believed that a long tongue would not do any good, but it was still worth keeping a distance first. Qing Chen did not need Xiao Lu's help, he was able to handle his own affairs. The guy replied that he should serve him. Qing Chen replied that no one is more grateful than others and should not use the word serve. Xiao Lu replied that in the future, even if the guy controls him, he is willing to lick his feet. Qing Chen asked what if he had tinea cruris. Xiao Lu looked like a dog, he replied that he could lick his feet. Xiao Li smiled stupidly, he was a very loyal guy. Qing Chen turned away and thought that there was absolutely no way to rely on this dubious guy. Xiao Lu was thinking this morning why Qing Chen didn't go look for him in the first place, because if he hoped to get closer to Li Shudong's position with the help of the new guys, it was very wise. Li Shudong was the high-ranking prisoner who had previously played Xiangqi with Qing Chen. In this 18th prison, if the guy can get Li Shudong's support, then their plan will be even more successful. Qing Chen realized who Li Shudong was, but he did not understand what the plan was, because Xiao Li did not express himself clearly enough. Xiao Li added that one should beware of Li Shudong, an alliance with such a person seems to have no chance of success and it can make them dependent. Xiao Li apologized for talking too much and asked what Qing Chen's instructions would be this time. The guy looked at him in surprise, he was surprised at such polite treatment. Qing Chen wondered what instructions to give Xiao Li. The guy said that she is a lama in the south. Xiao Li didn't understand what the guy was getting at. At this time, Li Shudong was sitting in the large hall with his subordinates. Next to him was Lin Xiaoxiao, he seemed to follow his boss everywhere. The prisoners were sitting in the library, there were many books around on shelves. Lin Xiaoxiao didn't know what to do with himself as he twisted the pen in his hands. Li Shudong was busy with something, he did not talk to the guys. Lin Xiaoxiao suddenly noticed that this young man had not helped the other newcomers. Li Shudong looked at the young man in surprise, he had a tablet in his hands. He noticed that when playing Xiangqi, Qing Chen is very determined, even without hands, he strives to preserve life, not to mention others. Lin Xiaoxiao said that Xiangqi is Xiangqi, and on the board he can also be decisive. He wondered if the boss would continue to pursue Qing Chen tomorrow to play again. Li Shudong replied that he would find him tomorrow, because he had no one else to play with, and his subordinates were bad players. Yi Wan approached the boss, who was about to show him something on the tablet. Li Shudong said that Qi Corporation has reported the capture of this Guohuchan, the prosecution procedure has already been completed. He should be transferred to prison 18 in the coming days. When he arrives, Yi Wan should make contact with him. Yi Wan had crossed paths with him before, although this person is difficult to get along with, he can at least communicate. Li Shudong understood everything, he was thinking about the remaining matters. The boss asked Xiaoxiao if he saw the incident with that injured youth this morning. The guy replied that he watched for a very long time and constantly felt something not normal. They were talking about an incident with a new prisoner, an earthling near the cafeteria. Xiaoxiao said that at first glance, the kid was talking nonsense after his breakdown. However, he spoke about Luoqing City and Win Group Corporation as if it were a real fact. The identity has also been verified. From the outside he is just an ordinary idle person who dropped out of high school and organized a trade in mechanical prosthetics following the Black Tiger in the city of 18. He was suspected of illegally robbing mechanical prosthetics, but there was no evidence and he was eventually sent here. There was nothing in his biography about the city or corporation. Li Shudong ordered Xiaoxiao to continue to monitor, because this young man also has other problems. He also asked what position the man was playing Xiangqi with. Xiaoxiao had not yet found out anything about Qing Chen, but he planned to do so before the end of the day. Xiaoxiao was surprised that the boss was so interested in Qing Chen, this was unusual for him. At this moment, Qing Chen appeared in the library and walked right in front of Li Shudong. Qing Chen took one of the tablets from the shelf. There was an authorization window on the tablet screen, an IP address and password were required. Xiaoxiao spoke to Qing Chen, and he told him what kind of tablet it was and that after authorization, it displays the guy's last actions, bookmark set on the reading line, and also the font size. Qing Chen asked if he could watch the news here. Xiaoxiao advised him not to even try, because his account did not have enough rights, but Li Shudong had them. Apparently in this place, Li Shudong is really freer than ordinary prisoners. Qing Chen looked suspiciously at the man who was sitting and reading what you were saying on his tablet. Qing Chen thanked Xiaoxiao and went to the table in the library. Xiaoxiao said to Qing Chen, "No hurry," he calmly walked to his place. At this moment, Xiaoxiao stopped in surprise, he did not understand what was happening. Something caught the hover's attention, and he realized that something was wrong here. Xiao Xiao turned around and looked at Qin Chen in surprise. At this time, Qin Chen was performing strange manipulations on his tablet. He was flipping through the pages on the tablet very quickly. Xiao Xiao told his boss that this guy can't, and he just wants to get close and have a chance to get along with Li Shutun. At this time, Qin Chen was sitting at the far table and carefully reading something on his tablet. He quickly turned the pages so that it was impossible to read anything on it. Xiao Xiao noticed something as he passed by Qin Chen. Xiao Xiao felt like Qin Chen was looking at reader very absent-mindedly. The guy thought that Qin Chen was just swiping his finger across the screen indiscriminately. Li Shutong told Xiao Xiao to mind his own business and not to neglect other people's desires to preserve his life. If Xiao Xiao had swapped places with Qin Chen, then most likely he would not have been even more patient. He should have learned to put himself in the place of others. 3 hours later, the library was already empty, the last visitors were leaving it. Li Shutun, along with his guys and the cat, also headed out. Qin Chen still continued reading at this time. The guy turned the pages at the same fast speed as he read the information. Li Shutong was attracted by Qin Chen's actions and slowed down as he passed by the guy. The man asked what was written on the third line of the previous pages of the book the guy was reading. Qin Chen replied that when order turns into chaos, chaos must be used to maintain order and preserve law. Xiao Xiao was very surprised to hear the guy's answer, because he thought that he didn't read anything. Xiao Xiao didn't believe that Qin Chen could answer correctly. He thought that the guy was just speaking at random. Yiwan asked Qin Chen to borrow his tablet for a second to make sure the information was correct. Qin Chen gave his tablet to the guy without any objection. On the third line of the previous page was written the same phrase that Qin Chen said. Yiwan told Li Shutong that everything is correct and everything is written in the book. Xiao Xiao was shocked and couldn't believe it. Qin Chen didn't understand what caused the guy's strange reaction. He looked at them in surprise. At this moment, Qin Chen noticed someone watching him intently, and he felt uneasy. Li Shutong's cat was staring at him, his eyes glowing yellow. Li Shutong smiled. He liked Qin Chen's answer. He was a very entertaining guy. Li Shutong became more and more interested in communicating with Qin Chen. He decided that it was worth eating. Xiao Xiao turned around and looked at Qin Chen in surprise. Qin Chen believed that while discovering his abilities was risky, it was the best way. In the end, if he wants to survive in this bestial prison, he must prove to the freest person here that you are useful. Li Shutong came to the prison cafeteria. There was no one around him. The man began to eat lunch. During his meal, someone sat down at his table. He stuck his feet out of his boots and made himself more comfortable. It was Xiao Xiao. He said that he came back and put his feet up on the chair. Yiwan shouted at him and demanded that he show respect in front of his boss and behave more civilly. Xiao Xiao didn't need this, because the boss didn't say anything and his partner should also be lenient. Li Shutong noticed that Xiao Xiao seemed to have results. Xiao Xiao replied that the Xiangqi player is absolutely pure, even too pure. There are no abnormal clues, which made him curious. His records show that he is a student at City 18 High School. His parents died in a car accident. His file says that he stole a phone, which was enough for punishment. More than half of the prisoners in this prison have committed serious crimes and usually there are people with criminal records. Qin Chen was the only thief here, with a sentence of 6 months. Xiao Xiao felt that this raised even more questions, and he also asked someone outside. There are contradictions in his case. He stated that he bought the phone himself, paid the money, only the phone seller does not know why there was no credit to the account. Xiao Xiao also thought the guy's surname was strange. Li Shutong tensed. He really wondered what was wrong with this guy. Qin Chen's surname, according to his business, was Qin. Everyone knew it in this world. This surname was very special in their time. 5 large companies monopolized almost all key sectors of the economy. And one of them is the Qin Corporation, a very large and influential corporation. It covered more than half of the globe and was a huge success in this world. In addition, the Qin surname is very rare. You don't see it often. At this time, all the prisoners were already heading to their cells, after free time. If someone meets a person with the surname Qin, then in their hearts they know that the person belongs to the Qin Corporation. Li Shutong also knew that the Qin Corporation had previously planned to send Lu Guanyi here, and this kind of thing was easy to trace. At that time, Xiao Xiao simply didn't understand why the corporation sent such a small person and what they wanted to do. Yi Wang remembered this Li Guani, he always gathered people. Xiao Xiao said that is true. This Li Guani, as soon as he got here, immediately began to suppress the prisoners using his excellent mechanical prosthetics. Suddenly, within a month, his confrontation with two factions turned into a situation with three strong players. It was then that Xiao Xiao wondered if Qin Ling had sent him to the 18th prison. Yi Wang felt like the corporation knew that the boss was here and they wanted too much. And so Xiao Xiao wondered if the Qin corporation had gone crazy. Then he only realized today that Li Guani was looking for ways for this Qin Chen. No matter what Qin corporation wants to do, Qin Chen is in charge, and Lu Guani is nothing more than an errand boy. Xiao Xiao didn't know what they were planning to do. This Qin Chen is really valuable to the corporation, it's not clear what he forgot here. Li Shutong put the cup of tea on the table and thought about Qin corporation. Yi Wan listened carefully to their conversation, trying to understand what was happening. Li Shutong believed that it was time to choose the next generation of shadows. Xiao Xiao understood exactly what this meant. He was surprised. Yi Wan looked at his boss in shock, he did not expect such a turn of events. Xiao Xiao asked if Qin Chen was one of the candidates for the next generation of shadows and perhaps he came here on a mission. Li Shutong said that such a huge consortium must have both an official face and a hidden force. The head of the Qin family is an official, Qin Chen is a hidden power. The shadow specializes in dirty work and has great authority. He is the master of the Qin corporation underworld. No one can control his actions except the head of the family. Only each selection process for the Tians is unusually cruel, like feeding poisonous creatures. Yi Wan looked around suspiciously and looked at the prisoners behind him. Li Shutong believed that the Qin corporation was again going to disturb everyone's peace. Yi Wan turned around angrily, something was bothering him behind him. The guy's evil appearance terrified all the prisoners, they tried not to look at him. Xiao Xiao felt that even if Qin Chen was a candidate, there was no need to make his background so clean. The boss believed that Qin Chen's biography was hiding a more important secret. Li Shutongwu said that Qin Chen is like one person and the guys will soon understand everything themselves. Li Shutong is interested in Qin Chen, he ordered Xiao Xiao to go and try to find out his details. Xiao Xiao sat and listened carefully to the boss. The guy noticed that the boss was optimistic about Qin Chen. This is strange, because he is a person from the Qin corporation. Li Shutong replied that he just asked Xiao Xiao to test him, he didn't want to do anything. Moreover, Li Shutong was interested in capturing someone from the Qin corporation. Xiao Xiao felt that Qin Chen was different from them. Li Shutun began to list the types of people in each organization. Xiao Xiao listened to him carefully. First, in any organization there is a tiger that pacifies the mountains. Apparently it was Li Shutun. Also an integral member of the team was the insightful hawk. He looked like Qin Chen. The martial wolf resembled Yi Wang. Also, an agile leopard and a loyal dog should also be excellent participants. And everyone has their own responsibilities. Xiao Xiao asked what his role was in the organization and what animal the guy was like. Li Shutong replied that this is a fish shirking from work. Li Shuton's dialogue with his charges was interrupted by a loud scream, the guys turned around. The screams came from one of the prisoners who had been electrocuted and was lying on the ground. He was shocked by a large robot. He asked the prisoner to go to his place according to the location of his cell. Apparently the prisoners were new, they made excuses and said that they had been there once in the morning and could not remember it. One of the prisoners was unconscious, lying on the prison floor, foam flowing from his mouth. The rest of the guys were interested in watching the newcomers being shocked by the guard because they did not remember their place. All the prisoners turned their attention to Qin Chen, they were surprised that after the morning chaos, he suddenly remembered his place. At this moment, someone grabbed Qin Chen by the shoulder. The guy didn't expect this. All the prisoners lined up in a long line and slowly walked to their cells. The one who grabbed Qin Chen by the shoulder was Xiao Xiao, and he suddenly pulled the guy somewhere. Xiao Xiao grinned and said that in the future, Qin Chen will not need to stand in the same line with them, because he is a person who plays xiangqi with the boss. The robot guard did not react in any way to the fact that Qin Chen was taken away from the general queue. The guy wondered how special the situation was for these three people in prison. Meanwhile, the robot guard was rounding up all the prisoners and keeping order. Xiao Xiao patted one of the prisoners on his metal arm. The man turned around, he looked at Xiao Xiao angrily and didn't understand why he was being bothered. However, as soon as he saw the guy, his expression changed to fear. Xiao Xiao told him to move away. The man happily let the guys go ahead, he was very embarrassed. All the prisoners looked at Qin Chen in surprise, they did not understand why he had such a high position. They noticed that suddenly Qin Chen was eating with Li Shuthong. Xiao Xiao advised Qin Chiu not to be surprised, because the person who plays with the boss will receive special treatment. He understands that the food in this prison is not at all tasty, but the guy should hurry up. Qin Chen looked at Li Shuthong carefully, he clearly had a plan. The man sat calmly opposite the guy and ate his rice. Meanwhile, Xiao Li came past Qin Chen and gave the guy a sign that he was doing everything right. It was late evening, it was already 8 hours and 40 minutes, drones were flying everywhere and security guards were walking around. They ordered the prisoners to return to their cells in order, and all the prisoners formed a long line. The guards again ordered the prisoners to return to their cells, but this order did not apply to Qin Chen, who calmly walked along the corridor. The guy returned to his cell and turned on the water in the tap. Qin Chen decided to wash his face to regain his composure. Qin Chen didn't understand how it happened that one morning changed the attitude towards him so much, just because of playing xiangqi with Li Shuthong. Qin Chen looked at himself coldly in the mirror and wondered what he should do next. Qin Chen turned off the water in the tap, but drops were still flowing. They ended up on the sink, forming a small puddle. There was complete silence all around. It was disturbed only by falling drops, which instilled concern in those around him. At this moment, something strange began to happen to Qin Chen, as if he realized something. The guy was placed in some strange place. He didn't understand where he was. At that moment, the door opened and light from another room spilled onto the guy. The guy turned around, everything in the room was scattered, torn things were lying around. There was a teddy bear on the floor with a knife inserted into it and there was blood on it. Qin Chen was very surprised by such a cruel picture, he looked at the toy in surprise. On the wall of the room, hieroglyphs meaning ghost were written in blood. Lightning flickered outside the window. The light from the window illuminated the mutilated body of the teddy bear. The room was very strange, and there were bloody writings on the other walls, the house looked abandoned. Qin Chen saw a doll that was suspended from the ceiling by its neck. The guy thought that his body should still be in the cell. Qin Chen thought that this might be a dream, but a very realistic one. At this moment, Qin Chen heard some strange sounds coming from behind the door. He asked who was there. It was police officer number 27149, because the guy called them. The police asked to open the door. The voice seemed very familiar to the guy, he didn't understand why he couldn't remember, maybe he had memory problems. The guy was wondering whether he should open the door. He looked intently at the handle. Qin Chen finally decided to open it. A policeman stood outside the door with a notepad and a gun in his pocket. The policeman entered the house, he looked closely at the guy, the man looked angry. Qin Chen still didn't understand what was happening and where he was. Qin Chen glared at the policeman. Behind the guy in the house the fireplace was burning. Someone's blood was slowly flowing down the stairs of the house. The place looked creepy. Qin Chen, what did you hear behind you, and turned around. The police officer told the applicant to stand still and not move and to lock the door. The policeman went to see where the sounds were coming from, the man went up the stairs. At this moment, Qin Chen heard a knock on the door. He didn't understand what was happening. Qin Chen asked again who was there. He heard the same answer that it was the police, policeman number 27149, they asked to open his door. Qin Chen was very surprised to hear the same police number as the previous policeman. The guy didn't understand, isn't that guy already upstairs, then who is behind the door? The man behind the door said hello again and asked to open the door for him. Qin Chen didn't know who he was. A huge mouth appeared behind Qin Chen, asking who the real officer was. Qin Chen was very scared, he really didn't know the answer to this question. This mouth asked if the real policeman was the one who went upstairs, or the true officer was the one who is now standing outside the door. Qin Chen kept thinking about the answer and where he was now and how he could get out. It was a strange place, the mouths did not stop talking, there were more and more of them. Or perhaps no other man was the real official. Qin Chen needed to make the right decision and understand what to do. Roth asked the guy what his choice was. It was a puzzle for the guy. Qin Chen thought hard about the question. At that moment, the guy gathered his strength into a fist and walked across the broken room. The guy approached the teddy bear with a knife in his stomach and reached for the knife. As soon as Qin Chen's hand approached the knife, a bright light appeared around. The guy did not understand what was happening. The light came from the bear. It was some kind of secret force protecting the toy. Qin Chen didn't understand who was stopping him from taking the knife. The guy was surprised. Qin Chen realized that this unknown force wanted to imprison him in this terrible world forever. At that moment, the mouths around started talking again. They asked why the guy needed this knife. Their mouths suggested that Qin Chen should open the door first. They clearly would not bring him any good with their advice. Qin Chen didn't listen to them. He continued to try to get the knife out of the teddy bear. The guy noticed that the counter on his hand was still running, and his heart was beating and his blood was still boiling. Qin Chen realized that he had no other choice. He was going to do something. The guy ordered the knife to break. He reached for the weapon with all confidence. Everything around him was burning with mysterious power. Something cracked around. Qin Chen destroyed the mysterious force surrounding the toy. The guy managed to get the knife out of the teddy bear. Qin Chen's plan was a success. Qin Chen remembered the words of the mouth to open the door. The guy was going to do this as soon as he killed what was above. When this barrier that surrounded the bear broke, the guy's memory returned. He thought about what was bothering him. That policeman is Lin Xiaoxiao. He must now be in a nightmare created by him. Xiaoxiao tested Qin Chen at the request of his boss, and that is why he created this nightmare, the poltergeist double dilemma, to test his courage and stamina. He never thought that Qin Chen would go through all this horror with such calm and confidence. Qin Chen was not at all afraid. He had the courage to fight against any resistance. Xiaoxiao himself observed the guy's actions. The guy was surprised that Qin Chen was so calmly collected, although he was only 17. He didn't understand how he managed to take that knife even when he was so clearly trying to stop him. At this moment, Qin Chen called Lin Xiaoxiao. He was very calm and held a knife in his hands. Xiaoxiao was surprised that Qin Chen was able to remain conscious while in this nightmare. His boss was right about the guy. He really is good. Qin Chen asked why Xiaoxiao was doing this since Qin Chen didn't touch them. Xiaoxiao replied that he needed to know what the guys were like if the boss thought so highly of him, but apparently the nightmare was useless. Qin Chen asked, creating nightmares is Xiaoxiao's super ability. The guy said it was so. Xiaoxiao explained that just like Qin Chen's photographic memory, he has his strength and ability. He can't hide anything. Qin Chen thought that this is a Mia where mechanics and mysticism coexist, and perhaps the reason for the imprisonment of Li Shuthong and the others is directly related to the power they possess. Xiaoxiao decided to get straight to the point. He asked if Qin Chen was a member of the Qin Corporation. Qin Chen doesn't understand what Xiaoxiao is talking about, but he decided not to show it. The guy asked if this attitude towards him was connected with suspicions about his personality. He told Xiaoxiao to explain why the guards were ignoring him. Xiaoxiao explained that these guards have no right to touch them, but Qin Chen should not avoid his question. Xiaoxiao found a recording of Qin Chen talking to Lu Guanyi. He was arranged by the Qin Corporation and now he is ready to give everything to contact Qin Chen. Qin Chen sat down on the chair and asked, if Xiaoxiao is so sure that he is from the Qin Corporation, then what is the point of checking him then? Qin Chen realized that even after confirming his identity, if they wanted to contact him, then he had something else they wanted. The organization that Xiaoxiao belongs to does not deal with a person's past. As long as he is reliable, he will be able to join. Of course, you need to meet the standards of the organization in order to become a member. Qin Chen realized that if they had already checked him, then the guy was coming. Xiaoxiao stood up from the stairs. He believed that the guy did not meet the standards. Xiaoxiao thought that they wanted completely different things, but the boss said that there should be diversity in the group. Xiaoxiao listed all the roles in the organization to Qin Chen, the insightful hawk, the tiger, and everyone else. They all had their uses. Xiaoxiao said that Qin Chen could have already guessed his role himself. Qin Chen made the assumption that Xiaoxiao's role is that of the group's donkey. Xiaoxiao got angry and pressed the guy into a chair. Qin Chen was calm as always. Xiaoxiao said that the Qin sent Lu Guanyi to come first and prepare everything, then they sent Qin Chen. He asked what the guy wanted to do and what he wanted to find. Qin Chen asked why Xiao Xiao didn't ask Lu Guanyi. Qin Chen himself wanted to ask the guy about what was happening here. Xiao Xiao stared at the guy, his eyes glowed red and he began to use his power. Qin Chen felt something strange, the whole world around was shaking, he didn't understand what was happening. Xiao Xiao said that it doesn't matter, if the guy remains silent, he will deal with it sooner or later. He advised Qin Chen to rest, in the morning he would play xiangqi with the boss. Qin Chen returned to the real world, water was still slowly dripping from the tap. The guy opened his eyes, and in front of him he saw the ceiling of a prison cell. Qin Chen was surprised and scared by what happened in his dream. The guy looked at his hand with the timer, there were 21 hours left. The next day, the situation in the prison was normal, drones were flying everywhere guarding the territory. Xiao Xiao began to report to the boss that yesterday he tested Qin Chen with a double poltergeist dilemma, he told what happened. Yi Wang thought that he should slow down with the double dilemma of the poltergeist, because an ordinary person could not stand it. Xiao Xiao reassured him, because he had not overdone it. Xiao Xiao said that Qin Chen managed to get out of his nightmare trap. Li Shutong knew that it was very difficult for an ordinary person to escape from his trap, and the boy probably had a strong will. Xiao Xiao advised the boss to think twice, because this boy is pure evil and he is not at all like them. Li Shutong sat with his table and played xiangqi, he made the first move. They have already lost a lot of their own, even they are stuck in this prison. Xiao Xiao should have realized that darkness cannot always be overcome with light. Li Shutong believed that sometimes you need to resort to fire. The man was full of determination. A mysterious melody was heard from somewhere unknown, it spread to all the prison cells. It was morning, Qin Chen was getting dressed when he suddenly heard this music. Someone was singing that outside the long path, along the old road. Qin Chen didn't understand why there was a farewell song here and whether this was the future of the earth. The guy came out of his cell, all the prisoners were getting ready to go have breakfast in the dining room. Everything in the prison was the same, the guards again shocked the new prisoners. Li Shutong was sitting at the dining room table with his subordinates and a large white cat. Xiao Xiao greeted Qin Chen and asked if he had gotten enough sleep. Qin Chen thought how he could even get enough sleep, as the guy imagined it, because he was trapped in this dream demon for more than 2 hours. Li Shutong said that most people who came out of the sleep demon trap feel depressed, but Qin Chen is special. Xiao Xiao gave up his seat to Qin Chen. Qin Chen not only broke free from Xiao Xiao's control and grabbed the dagger, but is confidently standing on his feet today. It was amazing. Qin Chen asked if it was possible to obtain abilities like Xiao Xiao. Li Shutong said that the guy couldn't go his way. Qin Chen was more suited to Li Shutong's path. Yi Wan was startled by these words. Li Shutong sat at the table and calmly stroked his big white cat. Xiao Xiao was dumbfounded, he didn't expect the boss to say this. Qin Chen didn't understand what kind of person Li Shutong was and what kind of influence he had in this world, the guy couldn't ask about it directly. Qin Chen asked how he could follow Li Shutong's path. The man replied that Yi Wang and Xiao Xiao couldn't do it because they met him a little late. The man admires Qin Chen's talents, but this is not enough. The guy understood everything and offered to play xiangqi. The most important thing in this game is to meet a worthy opponent, if you win using your position, it is pointless. Lu Guanyi watched their dialogue. It was noisy around him, his subordinates were talking. Li Shutong suggested that the guy rest for a day, but he said that there was no need for this. The guy believed that this was the endgame of the imperial court. Qin Chen started his game. The first move was to move the rook horizontally from 2 to 5. Then he moved from 5 to 7, gun to 2 while they flew to 8. Everyone around them watched in surprise as Qin Chen and Li Shutong played. Then he moved the rook horizontally from 5 to 6, and the pawn on 4 to 1. It was check again. The guy used the rook to engage General Li Shutong, and the pawn moved a step forward to form a strong net. This was an elegant technique that ordinary people would not guess about. Li Shutong made his move, it seemed the man was not upset by the defeat. Li Shutong still thought that Qin Chen needed to rest for a while, but it seemed that he was wrong. Everyone watching their fight was surprised that Qin Chen had turned the general upside down again. The guys couldn't believe that Qin Chen won again, they were sure that it was impossible. Xiao Xiao looked at the guy in surprise, he didn't understand what was so special about him. Everyone thought it was too courageous to win again. Qin Chen believed that no matter how, if one day one beats someone like Li Shutong, it will be worth a lot. Lu Guanyi was very happy about the guy's victory. He also wanted to learn how to play xiangqi. Qin Chen's status suddenly increased in the prison, and now the prisoners were afraid of him. As soon as Qin Chen looked at the crowd of guys, they immediately ran away. Qin Chen asked if he could ask one question. Li Shutong agreed. The guy could consider this a reward for victory. Qin Chen asked if the man was playing the harmonica just now. Xiao Xiao didn't expect the guy to ask just such a question. Li Shutong asked what the problem was. Is this the first time Qin Chen has heard this? It was the music that the founder of their organization composed, and he also wrote the lyrics. Qin Chen thought that this founder might be from the earth, and it seemed like he was quite brazenly taking credit for other people's achievements. Qin Chen liked the song and asked the boss to sing it in full. Li Shutong thought for a moment. He seemed to suspect something. Li Shutun agreed, but the lyrics of the song were incomplete because many years had passed and much had been lost. Li Shutong began to sing this very song that Qin Chen had heard in the cell this morning. There they sang along a long path of green grass that connected with the sky. All the prisoners listened to the song in surprise. Most people really liked it. The text talked about nature. The song filled the entire prison with its energy. It could be heard in every cell. Li Shutun said that the line parting with the bits was added by many later generations, and it is said that it was not originally there. But no matter how close it is, Li Shutong seems to be missing a little sense. Qin Chen suggested exchanging her for best friends. Everyone went to different directions. Li Shutong was surprised and thought about the guy's proposal. At that moment it dawned on the man and he jumped up from the table. It seemed to him that best friends had gone their separate ways, which was ideal. He thanked Qin Chen. This seems to be the original intention of the song. Their founder created many lyrics that are classics, but they were lost at the end of the previous era. There is one more song. Qin Chen asked the name of the second song that was not lost. It was called Canon. However, only the name was known from this song. The predecessors carefully searched the ruins, but still could not find the notes. Qin Chen recognized this song. He was going to exchange it for an unusual path, but decided that it was worth waiting for now. Qin Chen was sitting in the library. He said that there is no need to be so careful. There were a lot of people in the library. Prisoners were taking tablets from the shelves and reading something. Qin Chen said that Li Shutong already knew about their relationship. Besides, he doesn't seem to mind at all. Qin Chen now wants to rest and asked not to disturb him. Lu Guanyi only intended to say a few words. He spent half a day thinking about what he should call Qin Chen and finally came up with the option boss. Lu Guanyi asked if the guy heard Qin Yan mention him. He has been suffering since childhood. His father sold his kidneys to wealthy people, replacing them with a pair of bionic ones. Li Guanyi decided to tell Qin Chen the story of his whole life. He asked whether Qin Chen believed that his parents loved him. Later, he heard Qin Yan say that this time Qin Chen called him here to explore the path. He was so happy. Before his death, Li Guanyi had regret. They went to school, but since childhood he envied literate people. Qin Chen was not very interested in listening to all this. He asked what the guy was getting at. Li Guanyi asked with sparkling eyes if Qin Chen could teach him how to play xiangqi. Qin Chen asked why he wanted this so much. Li Guanyi thought this was very cool, because even people like Li Shutong could not compare to Qin Chen. Qin Chen believed that this was the only way to earn a reputation. Li Guanyi said that of course it is impossible to defeat him, so winning xiangqi is the best option. It never even occurred to Li Guanyi that the boss would come here and not only immediately get to know Li Shutong, but would be able to get along well with him, because he might know where the eastern Tibet they were looking for was located. Because if Qin Chen received his inheritance, then the fight for the shadow position would immediately stop. Qin Chen realized that Li Shutong's combat power was very high. Qin Chen agreed to teach the guy how to play xiangqi, but right now he had to go far away from him for a long time. Meanwhile, the countdown continued, with only 5 minutes left on Qin Chen's timer. Qin Chen drew an inscription on his prison bed saying that he was here. These 2 days seemed like a dream to him. He met several people and learned about another world. Qin Chen pinched his arm, leaving a large bruise there. The guy didn't know if he would be able to return. Meanwhile, the timer was quickly counting down the seconds until Qin Chen moved. The guy had only 9 seconds left before something happened to him. The seconds flew forward non-stop, the timer already had 8 seconds. Ching Chen sat calmly on his bed and waited for the countdown to finish. The guy took a deep breath, he had less and less time in this world. At this moment the timer showed 1 second. In an instant, this world shattered into small fragments. All the memories he acquired in this prison appeared before the guy. Changes await him. As before, Ching runs out of time in another world, after which he returns to reality. He finds himself sitting on the couch 2 days earlier. The guy has a knife in his hands, and on his right wrist the time has been updated to 48 hours. Taking the phone from the table, Ching notices that it was returned to the day when it moved. With a serious look, the guy suggests that 2 days have passed in that world, and only a second on Earth, noting that this is the principle of time travel. There is a small abrasion on the left forearm. Stretching out my hand, the guy comes to the conclusion that this won't interfere in any way in the real world and he won't have to explain where he periodically disappears. Holding his phone in his hand, the guy notices a new timer on his wrist. A call comes in on the phone. Taking the phone, Ching greets politely. A voice is heard from the receiver. The woman introduces herself as a police officer, adding that the guy's father was detained for organizing gambling and the guy needs to go to the police station. Ching wondering why he would do this. The policeman explains that the guy's father, based on the law on penalties, needs to pay a fine, and Ching, as a formality, must come to the station. Closing his eyes, Ching apologizes for not coming to the station, asking the police to punish his father with all severity. Remembering the law, the guy adds that upon completion of the penalty for violating public order, the police have the right to add 10 to 15 days to the term, as well as a fine of 5 to 3,000 yuan. The policewoman is amazed by these words. The guy from the tube introduces himself as a caring Ching citizen, denying that he is the man's son. Having finished the conversation, the guy puts the knife on the table by the bed, after which he sighs languidly. After checking his email, Ching realizes that his mother never wrote to him. Lying on the bed, the guy looks at the ceiling. Reflecting, the guy notices that if he could go back in time, then everything in his life would be different. Ching walks slowly down the street in his school uniform. The guy reads written notes on a piece of paper. He is not sure what he should give to Li Shutong, as there are big risks. Approaching the class of the third group, the guy decides to first find out whether this Li Shutun has any value. Sitting in class, his classmate approaches Ching. The guy was interested in whether teacher Du found out that he ran away from class. Ching, with a calm face, also turns to Nan and asks if everything is okay with him, because he is very worried. The guy, confused, replies that he is not worried. Sitting at the same table, Ching quickly turns the pages of the textbook in search of the right page. Nan addresses Ching by name. The guy wonders what Ching would do if he encountered something particularly strange in his life. Hearing this, Ching stops abruptly and asks Nanya what he meant by especially strange. Hanging his head, Nan tries to explain what exactly he considers strange, calling it something special. Ching suggests calling the police. Nan, remembering the police, asks the guy if he has any acquaintances in the police. Ching says that he has friends in the police, because just yesterday his father was arrested for organizing gambling. Nan was amazed at how simply his friend told it. His father sat in the interrogation room with the interrogating policeman. Ching thought it was strange that Nana mentioned something strange. He assumes that the guy has the same counter on his hand, but he didn't know how to verify this, because only the owner can see the counter. One of the classmates loudly surprises, attracting Ching's attention. The guy read the news that an American basketball star would start a broadcast and tell how he visited the mechanical world. Ching was surprised that there were also people abroad who could move between worlds. A man with an iron fist expertly throws a basketball into the basket. In the background there is a camera broadcasting live. Nan shows the broadcast to Ching, emphasizing that the man threw 10 out of 10 balls and was not tired at all. The basketball player says on air that he found a countdown on his hand. The man adds that at the end of the count he actually moved to a strange world. This world reminded him of the familiar one, but the civilization in the parallel world was very different. A man raises a prosthetic arm above his head. He states that he received this arm after traveling to another world. Journalists actively tried to interview the man. The basketball player adds that he himself does not fully understand how the prosthesis works, because he can throw the ball at least 100 times in a row. The man's face suddenly changes to a rather serious one. He warns the audience that this press conference is not meant to show off. He warns people to beware of this place, because it is very dangerous in his opinion. He also states that the press conference was held so that he would not be secretly captured and investigated. The man refuses to be the subject of research. Ching suggests that the basketball player could not do otherwise and had to hold a press conference. After all, the man is a basketball star and he will not be able to hide his mechanical arm. The guy supports the basketball player's decision, because the technologies of another world are many times superior to those on Earth. Ching notes that this is a fairly easy method that also has a second side to the coin. Ching continued to think about everything, believing that he would not be able to find him in another world, because he was on the other side of the ocean, having come to the conclusion that he would not be able to carry the knife with him into another world. Ching suggests that then, one can transform oneself or hide an object in the body. The guys continue to read today's news. They massively describe the stories of eyewitnesses who visited a mechanical civilization. This greatly alarms Nan. He believes that traveling to another world makes it possible to surpass an ordinary person. Ching's classmates continue to marvel at the journey to another world. The girl adds that there may well be students at their school traveling to another world. Ching asks Nan that he meant the journey. The guy does not dare to tell his friend, assuring him not to worry about him. Smiling, Nan adds that if he found himself in such a situation, he would definitely take his friend. Looking down, Ching with a smile asks Nan, when he gets rich, not to forget about others. He also notices that his friend's anxiety has sharply changed to joy. Ching, with a rather calm face, silently adds that his friend should just be happy. Nan at this time continues to admire the news of those who have arrived in another world. Nan decides to ask his friend if he can go to another world and try to bring high-tech things back, and then sell them. Ching assumes that Nan will not succeed. Nan, smiling, reminds that there are people who have already been able to bring mechanical prostheses. He also adds that as soon as he gets rich from this, he will treat Ching to a sumptuous dinner. Ching notes that traveling is a very dangerous business and Nan should not think only about making money. The guy pretends to think about his friend's words. After a second, looking carefree at Ching, he asks where they will go for dinner. Ching looks at Nan questioningly. One of the classmates sitting in front is indignant that many people have already been able to cross the border of the worlds, so why haven't they been able to yet? Assuming that the intersection of worlds still has some laws. Nan adds that perhaps only special people can cross the border of the worlds. Ching listens carefully to his friend. Ching decides to sum up all the points. He believed that all people have the same countdown. In the ordinary world it is 6 hours, and the return is 48 hours. On the phone screen is a guy with a mechanical prosthesis. He also noticed that there are people who have not traveled in time, but they recently acquired a 48-hour countdown. The Ching calls them the second group. Ching believes that the approximate age of time travelers is approximately 10 to 35 years old. Continuing to watch the video on his phone, the guy showing the prosthesis accidentally breaks the fake, which makes him very scared. Nan, seeing how the guy's plastic prosthesis breaks, believes that now it's easier to become popular by pretending to be a traveler. Ching comes to the conclusion that Nan's reaction to the conference was real, which is why he could not be in the second group. Ching believes that there are two options for events. The first is that when one traveler dies, the next one immediately replaces him. The second is that the number of travelers is always growing. The guys are watching the morning news. They show a newly discovered traveler effortlessly jumping from house to house, eluding the police. Nan thinks this is very cool. Without letting on, Ching adds that it would be great to see a real traveler at their school and chat with him. Coming out of class, Ching was interested in the guy traveling through the worlds, Huang Jixin. He was in the 7th group, 1st grade of high school. There were students standing around the class discussing the recent news about the travelers. Ching, passing by other students, noticed that he was very different from the other students. He still didn't understand how exactly he was different from the others. Ching believed that he should be one of those who study hard to get into university. But now it seemed to him that his path lay elsewhere. Approaching the 7th group class, Qing decides to ask Huang's classmates if he has appeared. Many answered that they had not seen him today. Qing asks the guy if he knows where Huang lives in order to return his thing to him. The guy with glasses says that he lives in the central garden of Yin Run, but he didn't know where exactly Huang lived. Smilingly saying goodbye to the guy, Qing notes that perhaps Huang is not able to come today. After all, the guy's psyche could have been severely traumatized after recent events in a parallel world. The teacher standing at the blackboard is trying to explain a new topic to the whole class. Most of the students did not even pay attention to the teacher while discussing the recent news about travelers between worlds. Teacher Tian Hailong suggests that if he had a prosthetic mechanical arm, the students would listen to the lecture more carefully. The teacher ends the lesson here. Nan hands the phone to Qing with words about He Xiaoxiao's new strategy. Qing did not understand at all what he was talking about. Nan decides to explain to his friend that he is a famous master with a high level of play. Adding that this man a few hours ago posted a strange video on the strategy of an unknown game, Nan believes that the strategy is from another world. Qing assumes that this is also one of the travelers. The phone screen says that the game is quite unusual and a video of it is not so easy to show. The man in the video is trying to talk about the game. He calls the world in which everyone is located external, and the world of this game internal. The man says that he is very new to the game and has too little information. He adds that he has not yet found a way to get the hidden, orange, combat skills. The man says that he knows so far only 3 ways of development. The first he names is the technology of transforming oneself, namely the sale of one's organs or limbs, replacing them with mechanical ones. But the guy doesn't recommend this method. The second is the Forbidden Inquisition, but the man does not yet know how to join this organization and use this injection. He also adds that he has not yet found a single NPC with this organization. And the third way is to be in prison number 18, after entering which the user will have to look for a character named Li Shutun. Qing was puzzled by this information. He didn't understand why a man called another world a game, and Li Shutun was a character on whom his career ladder depended. Qing notes that Li's reputation in the inner world is quite high. He also notes that he was only there for 48 hours and has already learned so much information. Nan, of all the options, settles on looking for a prison, but does not understand at all how to find it. The topic of the intersection of worlds was discussed at school for a long time, but everything changed in the afternoon when terrible news suddenly appeared. The news told how one of the world travelers was brutally stabbed to death in his home. The next shot shows a man in a pool of blood, who has had all his mechanical prosthetic legs removed. Many world travelers were excited by such events because they had already revealed their identities. People with mechanical limbs had a special fear of being killed. In the news, journalists said that people had already made assumptions. It is possible that by killing the world traveler, they will thus be able to take his place and get to another world. Qing asks his friend if he saw this news and what he thinks about it. He warns Nan to be careful if he actually crosses the world. Nan lowered his head and was saddened by such events. Seeing an opportunity, he really wanted to change his fate, but now it all really scares him. Nan asks why exactly they suffer from this. Qing adds that the fact is that while other fathers were sacrificing their lives, his father was playing cards. Nan, surprised, decides to ask what Qing's father was doing at that time. Qing, without hesitation, replies that his father at that time was sacrificing his life playing cards. Nan, not understanding the complexity of Qing's situation, asks how exactly his friend's father was arrested. Continuing to look for something in the phone, rather coldly, he replies that he himself reported to his father so that he would consider his behavior. With admiration, Nan begs Qing to report on his father as well. Qing looks at his friend questioningly. Sitting in yet another class at high school, Qing still couldn't tear himself away from the phone. The teacher at this time asks to go to the map on the second page. Lost in his thoughts, Qing suspects a pattern in all this. Looking at the yellowed leaves, he notices that all the travelers found today are distributed in more than 10 cities. Clutching a fallen leaf in his hand, Qing adds that the distribution of travelers may be concentrated on certain people. At school it's already 20 minutes to 6, Qing decides to leave class, which worries his friend Nan. Upon reaching home, Ching immediately takes off his school uniform and changes into more casual clothes. Putting on a cap, the guy leaves the house following the phone somewhere. Ching puts a mark on the map to the Inrun Central Garden, wanting to find Huang and find out what happened to the inner world. The guy doesn't fully know where exactly Huang lives. Ching, thinking it over, believes that in such a dangerous world it is not possible to survive without a strong physique and a persistent spirit. Ching again notices that he has somehow changed. Deciding to still run to the place. The chains that the family and those around him have placed on Ching are slowly falling away. The guy confidently runs towards his goal. Arriving at Inrun Central Park, Ching watches as a guy at the main entrance places a card on the door. The guy notices that the complex is quite elite, which is why he can't get into the house without a card, so he decides to find the back door. Approaching the gate, Ching hears someone shouting about the prison and the mechanisms. It was Juan. Several men were holding him and escorting him to the car. Having put him into the transport, the man behind the wheel looked angrily at Ching and then drove off in an unknown direction. Ching had quite a lot of questions. He was especially interested in who all these people were and why they took Huang Jixiang, noting that this could not be a coincidence. Walking down a fairly busy street, Ching feels like someone is walking right behind him. Ching notices that this man has been walking since Ching turned around and walked towards the house. He had been following him for about 5 blocks. Ching decides to pretend that someone called him. He answers the phone, warning him that he will be a little late. A suspicious person passes by Ching without paying attention to him. Standing already at the traffic light, Ching notices that the person standing next to him was also at the residential complex. The guy believes that this is not a coincidence, but real cross-surveillance. More questions pop into Ching's mind. He was interested in what kind of organization was watching him, because they were well-trained and most likely somehow connected with world travelers. Ching adds that he doesn't understand why they are following him, because he is not the first and most likely not even the third batch of travelers. Ching looks ahead confidently. He believes that he cannot make a mistake under any circumstances. The traffic light turns green. Ching takes a step back and turns around, heading in the opposite direction. The person watching Ching is asked in the earpiece where the object is currently located. The man is a little confused by the guy's actions and says that he will only be there in 2 minutes. The agent decides not to cross the road, but to wait at the intersection. Turning back, the man realizes that he has lost Ching. The agent suddenly begins to run, saying into the earpiece that it is a shame for him to lose sight of one person. He asks another agent if the guy was able to detect their surveillance. Another agent is confident that the surveillance was discovered, calling him a master. The man, still searching, dictates the guy's characteristics, noting that he has extremely high abilities. The agent adds that the guy looks quite ordinary and unremarkable. He notes that when the guy stopped to call, he was sure that his surveillance had not been discovered. The second agent asked why they were wasting time on an ordinary passerby. After all, they already have a lot of work today. The agent believes that the guy is somehow connected with Object 009. After all, he avoided looking at him and stood outside the hotel for a reason. Ching, sitting in the aisle, decides to wait half an hour and make sure that he is no longer being followed. Ching decides to check if he Xiao Xiao is online. He suspects that the guy could also be captured by this unknown organization. Ching wonders how many such organizations there are in the country. Ching notices a police car driving by. The elderly grandfather wonders what happened, to which the woman standing nearby begins to tell. The fact was that a woman had recently been hospitalized in a house on this street with numerous beatings, but the man was never detained for this. The grandfather notices that the man apparently beat the woman again, but then something happened to the man. The woman points her finger and confirms her grandfather's words. She suspects that this woman is also a traveler between worlds, which is why when the man once again tried to beat her, she fought back. Although the man was able to hit the woman, she was able to break both of the man's arms with one blow before losing consciousness. The woman felt sorry for the girl who saw everything that was happening. The girl was crying while sitting in the alley. Ching approaches the girl, to which the girl calls him brother through tears. With tears in her eyes, a girl clings to Ching. Over the past 2 years, Qing quite often met mother and daughter at the entrance. Qing adds that when the girl's parents quarrel, she herself often resorts to hiding at his house. He also remembers the first time he cooked fried rice for a little girl. He notes that as soon as a man sees his wife talking to another person, he immediately beats her at home. Now everything has changed, the man got what he deserved. The girl calls Qing brother, explaining that her mother asked him to sit with him for a while. The girl knocked on the door, but no one opened it. Qing decides to ask the girl if she has eaten. He offers to make her some fried rice. The guy remembers recent events and immediately enters the house, closing the door behind him. Qing decides to also close the curtains so that no one can see him at home. The girl decides to ask what exactly Qing is doing. The guy with a smile asks the girl not to worry, asking her to be quiet. Looking out the window, the guy observes how the police are still standing at the house, registering the incident. A black SUV approaches the police. Several agents whom Qing had previously seen in Central Park get out of the car. One of the agents turns his attention to the window. But as soon as he looked at him, the curtain was immediately closed. His partner wonders what he saw. But the agent denies it, saying that he felt like someone was looking at him. The guy chalks it up to nervousness. Qing, closing the curtain, ponders further actions. He suspects that the agents came to pick up the girl's mother, because she is a traveler. Approaching the door, Qing listens for any movement. He suggests that if someone really came to take the woman away, sounds of resistance would be heard. The two agents leave the building empty-handed. Qing sees this, wondering why they aren't gathering all the travelers. Several knocks are heard on the door. Wary, Qing approaches the door and then opens it. A slightly beaten woman stood near the door. She apologized for disturbing Qing once again. Qing notices that both of the woman's arms are mechanical prostheses. The guy invites them to stay for the wedding, because he was just about to prepare food for the girl. The woman thanks for your concern, but after that she asks the girl to go home with her. The woman did not want to cause problems for the young guy. The girl, after her mother's words, decides to say that he is still hungry, and the woman destroyed the house. Qing invites them to stay and eat with him. The woman notices that Qing has helped her family before, but the guy has never shown such interest, suspecting that something happened today. Qing adds that he also really wants to learn about traveling through the worlds, so he wants to talk over dinner. Qing clarifies the woman's name, and whether it is convenient for the woman to talk about it. He planned to find out about the inner world. The woman introduces herself as Jiang Shui. The girl pulls her mother into the apartment. Jiang again apologizes for the concern. She was ready to tell everything she knows about the parallel world. Qing is surprised that the woman is quite weak, but was able to survive in the inner world. After preparing dinner, the girl and her mother thank you for your hospitality. Qing wonders what the police asked after the incident. The woman said that her neighbors helped her explain the whole situation. Although they planned to take her away, since she has a daughter, the woman would have been released immediately. Qing clarifies that the two agents arrived later. Jiang also didn't know what kind of agents they were. They asked the woman to fill out a form and show the document, and also ordered her not to leave the city in the near future. Qing was alarmed by this. He was surprised that these people did not catch travelers, suggesting that they were agents of the country and there was no mysticism here. Qing decides to ask who Jiang is in the inner world, since she was able to change both hands to prosthetics. Jiang stated that she opened a mechanical prosthetic hospital in the inner world. She received prosthetic hands as soon as she arrived in another world, and upon her return they never disappeared. Qing also decides to ask about prison number 18 and where it is located. The woman states that this prison houses the most dangerous criminals in the Federation. Qing was surprised that Jiang mentioned the Federation, asking what else the woman knew. Jiang stated that she had only been in the inner city for 2 days and had learned little during that time. The girl decides to ask what the name of her mother's hospital was, to which the woman immediately replied that Jiang Shui Mechanical Hospital. The woman wondered why Qing was interested in traveling to another world. Qing assured that he, too, would like to go to another world, which is why he is studying all the information. Jiang assures that the inner world is too dangerous except for people from the corporation. The rest of the people in this world are in a difficult situation. Qing eats silently, thinking about everything. The woman offers to help Qing clean up. Qing wonders what the woman plans to do next. Jiang states that he plans to move to another city to stay with Xiao Yun's grandmother for a while. He adds with a smile that Xiao Yun will return to visit his father in a while. Qing suggests that the woman book a ticket now since large crowds of people travel to Jing City every day. Jiang tries to process the ticket purchase, but she gets an error. The woman stands in bewilderment. Qing suspects that the woman's travel cards were blocked, because the agents forbade her to leave the city. Jiang helps clean Qing's apartment. After the recent events, the woman tried several more times to buy a train ticket, but everything was still going smoothly. The Qing does not want to fall into this situation and be limited to just one city. Therefore, he decides to do his best to hide the fact that he is traveling through the worlds. Having finished cleaning and sitting down on the sofa, the girl notices that Qing has never looked so directly at her mother before. The girl thought that Qing invited her mother because she was very beautiful. Qing asks him to stop saying such nonsense. Jiang, having finished washing the dishes, takes some of Qing's dirty clothes and offers to wash them. Jiang adds that it is difficult for the guy to live alone, so she will help him, offering to contact her in the same way if there are dirty clothes. Qing tries to explain to the woman that he can wash his clothes himself. The woman, not hearing this, takes the girl away, warning that Qing still needs to repeat his lessons. Evening has come, the guy is lying on the bed. He continues to reflect on the fact that his classmates are still discussing travelers. He was also worried that he still hadn't released a new video. After checking the recent calls, Qing is still waiting for her mother's call, but still no news. There is a call from Qing's mom. The woman quickly reveals that she gave the money to his father. Qing, sitting on his bed, tries to explain that he needs money for textbooks, but his mother ignores him, saying that she will not be able to come this weekend, quickly bidding him farewell. The guy says goodbye to his mother, hanging up. He was glad that his mother called, but his mother did not remember the truancy at all. It wasn't like her. Throwing the phone on the bed, Qing believes that after recent events it no longer matters. On Qing's hand, there are 20 hours and 40 minutes left in the countdown. Returning from a run, Qing notices that Jiang has already washed his clothes, calling her a hard worker. A woman looks out the window. With a smile she offers to come to her and eat rice porridge. The guy refuses. He also notes that this is the first time he has seen such a kind attitude towards him. It was a little unusual for him. Having changed into a school uniform, the guy goes to a foreign language school. Approaching the entrance, Qing notices Nan running. He catches his hand, stopping him. Qing wonders why his friend is trying to buy high-tech nano socks, since they are just fake. Nan explains that Qing did not read the WeChat group, because they have another traveler at school and he is in the office right now. Qing notes that there was no one with mechanical limbs in the parallel yesterday. Nan adds that the guy couldn't restrain himself and is now bragging to everyone that he's a new traveler. Qing doesn't understand why there are so many travelers at his school. The guy starts calculating probabilities and suspects that there are already travelers in about 19 cities, which means their number is much larger. The guy assumes that people have already learned about the rule that travelers are limited to a few cities. Having come to the conclusion that people will be located in these 19 cities. Walking through the corridors, Qing begins to worry that all these 19 cities will become too busy. A guy passes by the guys, accompanied by teachers. Qing believes that this is exactly the traveler Nan was talking about, suggesting not to stop and go to class. Sitting at his desk, Qing ponders that the agents might find him when they come to school. The guy reassures himself that there are no cameras in his area, so they are unlikely to be able to detect where exactly he lives. Qing thinks he should sit out in class today. Nan calls his friend to see what he found. The guy shows that Xiao Xiao posted a new strategy on his channel. Opening the video with Qing reading the intro, he apologized for not releasing a new video yesterday, adding that he had reasons for this. The shot changes to a colorful battle. Xiao Xiao says that the video is an addition to the overview of the inner world, calling it a struggle for the place of the shadow of the Qing Corporation. He explains that the Qing Corporation is one of the 5 largest corporations in the inner world. Adding that the shadow is a person of the Qing Corporation who owns the power of the shadow world. He says that it is rumored that this is a tradition that the Qing clan has been following for over 1,000 years. A new shadow is periodically chosen from among the prominent sons of the clan. The man adds that the whole inner world awaits the choice of a new shadow. Xiao Xiao says that he already knows of 8 candidates for the position of the shadow, each of them had a unique skill. He begins to list each one by one. But stopping at the latter, he says that this man is mysterious and still cannot be identified. Qing, after listening to the video, assumes that the person is in prison number 18. Calling it an addition, Yuri's revenge. There are 6 hours and 20 minutes left on the countdown clock. Qing notices that for some reason Nan is very nervous. Qing, with his head down, suspects that his friend is really a traveler and he could end up in prison number 18, which means that if Qing decides to help him, he risks being discovered. Qing, taking the backpack, gets up from the table with the words that Nan should be careful when crossing the border of the worlds. Adding that his friend should be careful. Nan, frightened, begins to deny. Opening the door, the guy asks not to forget his words. Qing understands why Nan is keeping this a secret, assuming that he has some kind of plan. Jiang came to Qing's door. Qing clarifies what the woman wanted. Jiang explains that because she is a traveler, she will soon be running out of countdown. She reminds that the inner world is very dangerous and therefore she is not sure that she will be able to return. Jiang asks to take care of the girl if she cannot return tomorrow. Qing assures the woman that everything will work out and she can return home tomorrow. Jiang explains that she has already seen this world and knows better how dangerous it is there. Looking away, she adds that without experience in the Big Five, human life is worth nothing in the inner world. The woman explains that the guy won't have to watch the girl for long, because if something happens, her grandmother will come for her tomorrow. Smiling, Qing assures that he will keep an eye on the girl, but hopes that everything will be fine with the woman. Jiang sighs and thanks the guy. The woman hands over the key to the house, saying that if Qing needs anything, it will be convenient to open the door. Taking the key and saying goodbye to the woman, Qing examines the key in his hand, calling it real trust in him. There are about 10 minutes left on the countdown. Qing stuffs something resembling a flash drive into his mouth. At the end of the time, he decides to pinch himself hard, leaving a red mark. The countdown time is ending. Qing awakens in the inner world. He was glad for this turn of events, because otherwise Li Shuten's previous efforts and sympathy would have been in vain. The guy didn't care about Li Shutono's position. The main thing is that his strategy indicated that Li was an important figure in the entire strategy. Qing decides to make sure of the transition. Qing believes that the canon notes he has learned will still be useful to him, since most travelers are still confused about what to do. The guy emphasizes that he has already crossed Li Shutong's circle. Qing, holding a flash drive in his hand, notices that things in the body are calmly transferred to the inner world. He also notices that the previously left wound was also transferred and preserved. This proves his hypothesis that the body is the same as in the outside world. The Qing relies only on its own methods to gradually increase knowledge about the inner world and the mechanism of crossing the border of the worlds. It seems to the guy that he is beginning to get used to the inner world and even misses the noise in prison number 18. Qing realizes that the time limit is still 2 days. He wonders if time will change in the future. The guy goes out onto the balcony looking towards Li Shutong. The blonde man guarding the boss waves Qing away. The people standing next to him are very jealous of him. Qing waves the crowd away and passes through. People were excited that such a person paid attention to them. The first thing Qing was interested in was seeing the new group. He assumed that the second group of travelers should have already been delivered to the inner world. Qing thinks about how he can find out who is from the new group. Qing notices his classmate Lu Dezhu on the floor below, but he decides to stay in the shadows and not help the guy. A guy passing by Lu notices that there are new people in the prison and they will have a lot of fun today. A guy with prosthetic arms and cybernetic eyes greets new arrivals in prison number 18. Qing calls this guy Li Guani, adding that he was causing trouble for him. But now the guy has warm feelings for this man. Lu was excited to hear about prison number 18. The guy decides to ask everyone who might know where Li Shutong is. One of the big guys points at the table below, saying that's where Li Shuton sits. Lu points out that he Xiao Xiao did not lie about the real legend Li Shuthong. He notices that the man's character resembles that of the boss. The blonde sees a new guy running towards them with a tray, and behind him a crowd of prisoners trying to scare the guy. The blonde stops the guy with a punch on the nose, saying that such strange personalities like him cannot just get to the boss. The guy grabs his head in pain. The guy, looking at the angry crowd, asks him to let him through to receive a mission from Li Shutun. The blonde looks at him indignantly. Lu takes hold of him and asks him to let him through again. The guy slaps him so that the new guy gets away from here. The crowd mocks this. Lu is among the crowd of thugs asking Li Shutong to pay attention to him and receive a promotion mission. Li Shutong continues to sit, not paying attention to the new guy. The blonde moves away from the new guy, calling him an eccentric. Lu begins to be beaten by the crowd. The guy wonders what he could have done wrong, since he has already ended up in the right prison number 18, suggesting that this is the beginning of his journey. The guy, trying to escape from the hands of the crowd, believes that this is not a suitable place for a promotion mission. Lu asks to be released and then abruptly breaks away from the hands of the crowd. The big man screams in anger that this new guy bit him. The guy runs to the wall screaming to be let out, because they want to kill him. Qing, observing all this, thinks the guy is crazy. Considering that this is not rational after arrival, you immediately begin to boil. The blonde, talking with Li Shutun, notices that all this is strange. After all, just yesterday the same crazy person came and said that he was from the city of Lo. Li, taking a sip of tea, finds this equally strange. The blonde wonders where Qing went, noting that just yesterday the guy was very active, but today he is not visible at all. All the prisoners mock Lu and how the guards taught him a lesson. Qing silently passes by. Passing by Guani, Qing quietly asks him to check on all the new arrivals and question them about their identities and backgrounds outside. He also adds that they should not go overboard during the welcoming ceremony. The man briefly replies that he will do everything. The guys surrounding Guani are surprised that Qing himself has climbed to their 6th floor. The man assures that it is none of their business. Qing decides to find out which of the new arrivals are travelers by asking them. After a while, Guani, passing by, quietly whispered something. Qing realizes that there are no more travelers among the new arrivals. Qing sits down at the same table with Li Shutong. He offers to play xiangqi. The man refuses, offering to play next time. He adds that he is expecting a guest who is due to arrive today. Li Shutong, smiling a little, calls him an uninvited guest. Qing pretended that he did not understand what was happening. Decides to ask Li what all the fuss was downstairs. While trying to eat, Qing notices that Li Shutong could not call an ordinary person an uninvited guest. But Qing decides not to ask who exactly this person is, since he did not plan to interfere, only wanting to see. Li, closing his eyes, replies that he doesn't know what happened and why there was such a fuss. Qing realizes that the so-called travelers have confused Li Shutong. Suspecting that the man is encountering travelers for the first time, considering them crazy. At this moment the door opens, behind it you can see huge boots shackled. Having taken a few steps out of the darkness, a huge thug comes out, covered in tattoos. The man was accompanied by all the guards. Qing sees for the first time that all the security forces of prison 18 were deployed, and they also brought him in separately in the light of day. The guy also notices that the thug was bigger even than Yuan, who was guarding Li Shutong. As soon as the security robots moved to the side, the thug immediately took the first guy he came across, lifting him over his head. With an evil look, the goon wonders where Li Shutong is. Li's security immediately stands in front of the table, covering their boss. Qing, still sitting with the man, looks towards the thug. The thug throws the guy towards the crowd, after which he moves towards the table. Li Shutong gets up from the table, noting that he didn't think that the guest would be so straightforward. He asks Qing to remember a man named Guohuchan. Li asks Qing to stay close to Yuan so as not to get hurt by the thug. Yuan notices that his boss fell in love with the boy very much, since he reminded him of this. Guani, seeing Guohuchan, understands that his boss did not just say that the llama would come from the south. Smirking, Guani will continue to think that his boss Qing was not even looking for evidence, just playing xiangqi and reading books. All this time he was waiting for Guohuchan to come so that he could harvest the crops. Guohuchan stops in front of Li Shutong, saying that he doesn't plan to stay here for long and wishes that Li would just give him the Ace-005 item. Li Shutun, stroking the cat, warns the thug to be polite to his elders and then he will not get hurt. Guo adds that if Li gives him the item, he will definitely be polite. To this, Li immediately asks why the peaks suddenly became interested in the subject, suggesting that in fact Go is from the Inquisition. Li asks why the thug came to the 18th prison for some object. Guohuchan explains the greatness of this item, offering to give it away for the sale of his palin. Li Shutong laughs, adding that he has nothing to do with the Chens, adding that the thug does not believe all the rumors. The Qing suggests that the Forbidden Inquisition is precisely looking for such forbidden items. He adds that apparently he needs this forbidden item to complete his task in the Battle of Shadows. Angry, Guo goes to Li Shutong with a repeated question, where is Ace-005? Li brushes off Guo, saying that although he knows where the item is, he won't tell it. Guo stands over Li Shutong, security robots target the man, warning him to stop. Li Shutong says that he just doesn't want to tell, because he likes Ace-005. Qing gradually retreats to a safe distance, noticing that out of the 72 metal storms, only 36 of them began to move. Go swings at Li Shutong with all his might, causing the mechanical robot guards to start shooting. Everyone on the first floor falls under a hail of rubber bullets. Qing notes that all 36 cars are real deadly weapons, although they shoot rubber bullets. Guo hits Li Shutong, causing a small explosion. Li Shutong stops the thug's blow with just 2 fingers. Guo was amazed by such power. Li Shutong watches as Qing sits at the table, not hit by a single bullet. This amazed him very much, because the guy calculated all the trajectories of the shots. Li Shutong notices that Qing has abilities beyond his age, suspecting that Qing's shadow will choose him. Li pushes the thug into the chest with all his strength, causing him to cough violently. Guo decides to sit on the floor, noticing that he was only able to move Li Shutong's clothes. Calling him a demigod. He understands that the difference in power between him and the man is like a huge chasm. Li, becoming more serious, asks Guo if he is ready to fight further. Turning around, he waves it off. He saw no point in fighting further, having no idea how to win. Adding that if Li doesn't tell him anything, then he himself will find out where Ace-005 is hidden. Qing is surprised that Guo was ready to fight for life and death and then suddenly changed his mind. The before and after approach seemed strange to Qing. Guo decides to keep an eye on Li Shutong and wait until he accidentally reveals the location of the item. Li sits down at the same table with Qing, asking him if he has calculated this position too. In the background, Guo walks away angrily, and the other prisoners scatter timidly. Qing says that although his abilities are better than an ordinary person, he is not able to carry out such a complex calculation and could only guess. Li joke, holding his chin, believes that just a guess is not enough for the guy to be able to find this position so accurately. Qing added that after a short calculation, he found 4 such places, one of which is where Li Shutong sits every day. Li assumes that Qing has decided to make a bet. Go sits silently on the floor while everyone else irritably cleans up after the incident. The blonde, throwing a rubber bullet, decides to turn to Go. The guy decides to remind the thug that while he was fighting, it was nothing for him, and those who stood and just watched got nothing. And, holding Go's shoulder, the guy with a smile explained why I call him a compassionate person who does good deeds, but ordinary prisoners suffered from his senseless fight. Closing his eyes, Go explains that he does not care about the prisoners, because among those who are here there are no innocents. Without showing any sign, Go closes his eyes. Inside, he feels severe pain after being hit by Li Shutong, as if he was burned by fire. The blonde, looking askance at the thug, calls him a hypocrite. Go explains to the guy that he is not a monk and does not use the word compassion at all. After finishing speaking, the blonde man returns to Li Shutong. Instantly, an orange dome lights up around the table where Li Shutong and Qing were sitting. The blonde, turning to Qing, explains that he can speak, because they cannot be heard outside the dome. Li Shutong, turning to Qing, decides to ask why the guy told Guani to interrogate all the new arrivals. Squinting, Li Shutong was puzzled as to why Qing did this. With a calm look, Qing explains that he wanted to find out what forces were fighting with him for the forbidden item. In his thoughts, the guy understood that this was the only way to justify his actions. While stroking his cat, Li Shuong thanks Qing for his honesty, but he was also worried that Guanyi did not torture the new ones. Li is confused as to why Qing is helping others. Qing helps whenever possible. In his thoughts, he emphasizes that if he cannot protect himself, he will calmly watch other people die. For him this is a principle in life. The shot changes to a table. Qing adopted this attitude towards life precisely because life gave no other choice. The blonde notices how carefully Go crawls towards the dome. The thug is trying his best not to show it. The guys look askance at Go. He realizes that the man could not hear from behind the dome. Having stopped, the thug realizes that he was noticed. The thug's forehead was covered with sweat. Go gradually crawls back. The blonde continues to look at the thug in bewilderment. Li Shuong decides to separate for today. Taking the cat, he goes to the exit. The blonde decides to approach Go again and explain that they don't need problems with the spades. He also adds that he knows there are problems in the wasteland, but it is not his problem. With a serious expression on his face, Go interrupts the guy, saying that he wouldn't dare touch even a hair on his head. The blonde looks questioningly at the thug, because he is completely bald. Qing decides to get some food for himself. He emphasizes that all the food in the canteen is synthetic, but tastes like regular food. Qing stops, noticing that all the security turrets are pointed at him. He suspects this is because he is in a blind spot. He is concerned about the question of who runs prison number 18. The blonde takes a tray of food and sits down next to Qing. He adds that Li Shuong said that the cook will now give the guy real meat. Qing wonders why him. The blonde points his chopsticks at Qi, explaining that he will soon understand everything. A guy stands at the tap, getting clean water. Qing looks in the mirror, he could see huge bags from lack of sleep. The guy still decides to lie down on the bed and try to sleep. Qing wakes up in a strange place, noticing an unknown person in front of him. The desert was visible all around, and the guy next to him did not move at all. Qing felt very thirsty, which even made his lips chapped. Qing looks into his backpack and finds one bottle of water. The guy sitting next to him immediately jumps up, asking the guy to give him a drink, because he is on the verge of death. On his knees, the man asks to name the price for water. He asks Qing not to let him die and still name the price for a sip of water. Qing, with a serious face, declares that he will first allow the person next to him to watch the man die of thirst, and then the guy himself will name the price. The man transforms into a blonde man. The guy is perplexed that Qing is still human, still in Qing's dream. They sit by the fire thinking about how Qing was able to find out what was in the dream. The blonde is trying to find out why the guy entered the call of the sleep demon, because this could have been easily avoided by not falling asleep for the first 5 minutes. After finishing all the water, Qing believes that the guy has something to tell him, so he came. The blonde, holding his chin, wonders what Qing wants to check this time. At first, Li Shuong wanted Xiao Xiao to take Qing Chen for a walk, using the nightmare to cultivate the guy's humanity and allow him to experience suffering. And now, Qing Chen is so easy to resist the dream demon, and it looks like the nightmare will be useless in the future. Li Shuong must test Qing Chen himself. Qing Chen thought that the scene in the desert was different from the previous one, more like a lesson arranged by a teacher for a student. The guy told Xiao Xiao to forget about his ideas. Li Shuong so far only admires Qing Chen and nothing more. It is still unclear whether the guy will be able to become the boss's disciple in the future. Qing Chen knew for sure that Xiao Xiao was jealous of him. He also wanted to receive such recognition from Li Shuong. Xiao Xiao said that he was really jealous, because not everyone can become the boss's disciple, at least he and Yiwan can't. Qing Chen asked why. Xiao Xiao replied that none of them passed the first test. However, the boss believes that Qing Chen should be able to withstand him and become Li Shuong's disciple in the future. Xiao Xiao explained that this is the path of life and death. Every time you cultivate, you need to suffer. Qing Chen didn't understand why the boss chose him. Li Shuong believed that the guy had the courage to fight and survive at any cost in this cruel world. Qing Chen asked how old Li Shuong was. He wondered if the guy would age faster than people in the outside world and if the boss's abilities could go beyond the ordinary and increase his longevity. Xiao Xiao replied that Li Shutong was 52 years old. Qin Chen was very surprised, because he looked only 35 to 36 years old. Xiao Xiao would not be surprised if a person like the boss lived even more than 100 years. They had been watching him since childhood and the guy had not seen him change in any way over the years. Qin Chen asked why the guys followed him. They didn't have any particular reason. Xiao Xiao and Yi Wang and many others were all orphans. Xiao Xiao believed that Qin Chen was born into the Qin family, so he would not understand how cruel life is outside or how easy it is to become an orphan. The guy didn't know what happened to his parents, anything could have happened. And then Xiao Xiao couldn't pay the property tax, and the insurance company also refused to pay compensation. Then the bank took his house and threw the guy out onto the street. At this time, his life is already gloomy and hopeless, and the club wants to recruit him as a child, a drug courier, to transport drugs, torture him even more cruelly, then film him and sell him in the virtual world for money. It was at this time that a man appeared before them who changed their lives. Yi Wang had exactly the same story, his life was also full of suffering up to a certain point. Li Shutong appeared in front of the guys, he extended his hand to them and invited them to come with him, he promised to give them a new life. Xiao Xiao believed that whoever this person was who extended his hand to him, whoever would go with him. Qin Chen wondered what the suffering in his life meant compared to them. Qin Chen wondered why the boss accepted them. Xiao Xiao replied that they are useful to people, and what he wants to do cannot be done alone. Qin Chen still didn't know what the goals of the knights and spades were and what kind of giant the spades were opposing, perhaps this company from the five. It seemed to the guy that Li Shutong took these two in with the intention of using them, but they didn't seem to mind at all. Xiao Xiao got up from behind the fire and advised the guy to rest until the morning. Qin Chen has already seen Li Shutong's incomprehensible mysterious level. Is the canon he has enough to exchange it for the opportunity to open the door to a new world? Qin Chen cannot be sure that the canon is enough, and besides, he cannot explain where he got it from. At that moment, the guy's thoughts were interrupted by loud sounds in the next cell. Someone was drumming and shouting to let him out. It was Lu Dezhu who shouted. He asked if anyone was there and asked to let him out. The guy didn't understand why he was being kept here. Lu Dezhu tried his best to get out of there, he kept asking to be released from the cell. The guy didn't understand why others in the inner world had a great life, mechanical limbs, club members and all that, and at that time he ended up in prison. Lu Dezhu was depressed because he didn't have to show off to everyone before he came there. The countdown timer read something like 16 hours, 20 minutes. Li Shutong played Xiangqi again. The man said that after Qin Chen told Li Guanyi to keep a sense of proportion, there were fewer newbies crying in this prison, but the other two factions in the prison were very dissatisfied with him. Qin Chen knew that usually the three factions take turns holding a ceremony to welcome newcomers, which is considered everyone's entertainment. However, Qin Chen believed that Li Guanyi was capable of handling this on his own. Li Shutong asked if Qin Chen ever thought that these newcomers might not be grateful to him. Qin Chen believed that when you meet a beggar on the road and throw him some change, it is not enough to get him out of poverty, but you buy a little inner peace. Li Shutong smiled and laughed, he liked the guy's way of thinking. At that moment, right next to Qin Chen, someone loudly fell onto a chair. Qin Chen and the others looked in surprise at who was interrupting their game of Xiangqi. It was Guo Huachan. He said that he can be considered a respected person in spades, they themselves eat real meat, and they offer him to eat artificial meat. He believed that this is not how guests are greeted. Xiao Xiao invited him to fight the boss again. If he wins, he will be given food. Guo Huachan didn't want this. Besides, the three of them can eat real meat, but he didn't understand why Qin Chen would eat it since he was just an ordinary person. Guo Huachan sharply pierced a piece of Qin Chen's real meat with chopsticks. He approached Qin Chen and told him to take another portion and give this one to him. Qin Chen looked angrily at Guo Huachan, he was thinking about how to pacify the man. Li Shutong did not react to this, apparently he wanted to see how Qin Chen would handle this. Guo Kakan still took Qin Chen's portion, he laughed loudly. The guy didn't react to this. Guo Huachan said that they all saw that Qin Chen himself refused his food. In this case, Guo Huachan was not going to stand on ceremony. Qin Chen sat in silence. At this moment, Qin Chen began to use his abilities. The world around him froze, the guy plunged into himself. Qin Chen found himself in his world of films. All recent events flew around him in the form of pictures. He rewinded events, the guy was looking for something. He was very concentrated. Qin Chen rewinded the events of recent times, the oppression of newcomers. Then he looked carefully at Guo Huachan in his memories, he tried to find a solution to his problem. Qin Chen took a deep breath, he finally found a way out with the help of his abilities. Now it's time to return to the real world. Everything around was lit up with yellow sparks. Unexpectedly for everyone, Qin Chen loudly called Li Guanyi. Guo Huachan was very surprised by this. At that same second, Li Guanyi ran up to Qin Chen and asked what business Qin Chen had with him. The guy replied that he would give the numbers of 8 people, and Li Guanyi would bring them. Li Shutong ate breakfast calmly, he did not react to this situation. Li Guanyi did everything as Qin Chen ordered him. A minute later, 8 guys stood next to the table. Guo Huachan became very tense when he saw these guys. Li Shutong was amused by the man's reaction. Qin Chen asked if the 8 people going were his people. Qin Chen asked if these 8 people were Guo Huachan's men. The man replied that they were not all his people. Qin Chen noticed that Guo Huachan, when he was brought here, looked at the 5 of them and all 5 extended their index fingers. The guy thought that they were showing it to him. The other 3 men immediately looked at each other and exchanged glances. Xiao Xiao wondered how he could calmly watch in such a situation. At that time they only paid attention to the boss and the hail of bullets. Li Shutong said that in prison 18 all sorts of people mixed together, it is quite normal that people from other forces are watching him. Xiao Xiao asked if these people should be transferred to other prisons. Li Shutong believed that transferring 8 people for no reason would give the outside world reason to suspect him of something. He ordered Yi Wang to isolate these 8 and interrogate them. Guo Huachan submitted all 8 of these guys to Yi Wang for questioning. Xiao Xiao was surprised that Qin Chen found all these people. Qin Chen was going to show them his show. Li Shutong had read that Qin Chen's ability to memorize and analyze was unmatched among his extraordinary people. Guo Huachan was surprised that Qin Chen was not a man of knights. He asked what his name was. Qin Chen said his name. Guo Huachan asked and the knights started collaborating with the Qin consortium. Li Shutun asked if a person with this surname is obligated to be part of the family, even if so, he should not remain in the family for the rest of his life. Guo Huachan looked at Qin Chen incredulously, he suspected him of something. Guo Huachan asked what Qin Chen's impression of the peaks was. Qin Chen replied that it was not very good. Judging by his personality, Guo Huachan came to compete with Qin Chen for the prohibited item, so there is no need to be friendly. At this time, loud sounds were heard. Someone was beaten. There were prisoners lying on the floor, all of them beaten and unconscious. Someone checked the mouth of one of the prisoners, he opened his teeth and looked at the contents. Yi Wang found poison capsules that were hidden in the back molars. When you open your mouth, there is a faint smell of bitter almonds, it is cyanide. Guo Huachan said that these 3 are not from his peaks. Li Shutong was surprised that there were death row prisoners among the prisoners, it was a little unexpected. Qin Chen looked at the dead prisoners in surprise, he had thoughts. Whether it was the external or internal world, this was the first time that Qin Chen faced death directly. He was tense, there are wild animals running rampant in this world after all. Robot guards went to pick up the corpses. The countdown showed 15 hours and 22 minutes. Li Shutong saw Qin Chen's confusion and looked at him closely. Li Shutong asked if this was the guy's first time seeing death. Qin Chen confirmed the man's words, he was uncomfortable with what he saw. Li Shutong looked at the guy carefully, he asked if Qin Chen was afraid of death. Qin Chen honestly answered him that he was a little afraid, the guy was afraid. His teachers taught him various school things, his parents taught him how to use chopsticks, do laundry, and take care of himself. However, no one ever taught Qin Chen what death was and he was not ready to face it. Only after seeing this with his own eyes did Qin Chen realize how shocking it is to have your life disappear before your eyes. Li Shutong explained that every person has two lives, and he was going to tell when the second life begins. It only began when you realize that there is only one life. The man made his move in Xiangqi. From this moment on, a person begins to tell himself about the importance of time, and clearly realizes how much time he has wasted. Qin Chen understood very well that the more afraid you are, the more you need to remain calm. The guy's expression instantly changed. Qin Chen needs to study his past and also consider his future. Li Shutong moved one of the chips. There was a high probability that these three suicide bombers were coming for Li Shutong, so since Qin Chen helped him find them, the man was in his debt. Li Shutong gave Qin Chen the opportunity to exchange his debt for one thing. He asked what the guy wanted. Qin Chen asked for a list of Li Consortium members. Li Shutong thought this was strange. He thought that Qin Chen would ask how to become a Superman. It seemed to him that Qin Chen did not really value the opportunity of not many people who were indebted to the boss. Qin Chen explained that the way to become a superhuman cannot be equated with the value of this secret at all. He did not think it was worth it. Moreover, when the time comes, Li Shutong himself will give this method to him. Li Shutong smiled. He liked Qin Chen's thinking style. The man noticed that the guy was smarter than he thought and also more patient and reserved. He was right that some things cannot be exchanged, although he was a little disappointed that Qin Chen did not see blood. Li Shutong said that if Qin Chen treated life with disdain, it would not be interesting. Li Shutong told Xiao Xiao to go and bring the list that Qin Chen asked for. Li Shutong wondered why Qin Chen needed this list. The guy asked if he really needed to explain this. The boss changed his mind and asks, because this is a fee for a service and the guy can do whatever he wants. At this time, Qin Chen returned to his cell. Everything was unchanged there, not a ray of light fell there. At first, Qin Chen thought that Xiao Xiao would go to test him with the sleep demon tonight, but he didn't come and perhaps the boss thinks that there is no need to test him anymore. Qin Chen felt that he was getting closer and closer to the path of the Superman. Waiting to return this time was not as exciting for the guy as the previous few. This was because he had seen with his own eyes what death was. This world has again split into thousands of small pieces, and the time has come to travel between worlds. Qin Chen woke up in his real world in his home. It was a clear day outside, birds were singing carefree in the trees. Qin Chen looked at his hand. There was a countdown timer on it that showed 40 hours, 20 minutes and 27 seconds. The guy realized that each time the moving process was silent, he couldn't even wake up a sleeping person. Returning to the outside world after 2 stressful days, you can finally relax. Qin Chen put on his school uniform and it was time for him to go out. Qin Chen was really looking forward to moving again in 2 days to that mechanical mysterious world, where even more opportunities awaited him. The guy opened the door from his apartment. Qin Chen came out. Someone was standing right next to his door. He looked at her in surprise. It was Jiang Shui who asked, "Nothing happened when moving this time?" The woman replied that everything was fine and she was going to take Xiao Yun to school. She invited Qin Chen to come over after school and buy fish and ribs to celebrate. Qin Chen asked what they were going to celebrate tonight. Jiang Shui replied that she would tell it tonight. Jiang Shui turned around and smiled at Qin Chen. She was really looking forward to him coming to dinner with them. Qin Chen left the house. He was already approaching the school. All the students were reading the news on their phones. Qin Chen was no exception. The guy was surprised by one of the news. Qin Chen even stopped in the middle of the street to read it better. It said that someone on the dark web sold information that killing a world traveler does not make the killer a traveler. Qin Chen believed that these few words meant that someone's life was cut short and reality was often bloodier than it sounds in words. It was a clear day outside. All the kids were rushing to school to start their school day. Lu Dezhu from the parallel class also came to school. At first, Qin Chen thought that he would suffer psychological trauma like Huang Jixian and then take a break from his studies, but he did not expect that the guy would turn out to be completely different. Lu Dezhu not only boasted that he became a traveler, but also that he was imprisoned at the age of 18. He also told all the students that he met Li Shutong and talked to him. A huge number of people gathered around Lu Dezhu's class. They all listened with admiration to the boy's adventures in such a world. Qin Chen walked further down the corridor indifferently. Qin Chen believed that in the current conditions, revealing himself as a world traveler was a very stupid choice. Especially to claim that you know one of the most important people in the inner world. Qin Chen was afraid that this mysterious organization would appear soon. At this moment, Qin Chen noticed Nian Gingchen walking down the corridor, looking downcast. Qin Chen ran to his friend and called him. Nian Gingchen turned around and looked at Qin Chen. Qin Chen asked what happened to Nian Gingchen. Someone beat him. The guy replied that everything was fine and he just didn't sleep well. The guy didn't have mechanical limbs or any other oddities. Qin Chen opened the door to the office where they would have their next lesson and locked it. At this time, girls ran along the corridor. They heard that Lu Dezhu from the next class was traveling. They were going to go take a look. Qin Chen asked whether Nian Gingchen was tortured after the transfer. He doesn't understand what we're talking about. Qin Chen was almost sure that Nian Gingchen was moving, but he did not understand what the guy experienced in his inner world, that his former important appearance had turned into this. Qin Chen kept asking what the guy did after moving. Nian Gingchen stated that he did not move, and if anyone else said that he was a traveler, the guy would be very angry. The class was still vigorously discussing events involving movement between worlds. Previously, it was believed that Lu Dezhu was truly lucky to have communicated with Li Shutong. At this time, Nian Gingchen sat awkwardly at his desk, looking depressed. Nian Gingchen asked if he told Qin Chen that there was a group of travelers. Qin Chen replied that he mentioned this and thought that his friend could not restrain himself after all. Nian Gingchen said that those who sell socks from the inner world are selling fakes, and it doesn't matter where he knows it from, because socks cannot be brought from this world. He also said that one traveler can help contact a rich woman. Nian Gingchen said that this is true. Qin Chen was stupefied. Hearing the guy's words, he understood perfectly well that he was talking about himself. Nian Gingchen shouted that he had read what the other people in the group were saying and he was not a traveler himself. Qin Chen pretended to believe him, but he himself thought that after the transfer he was given to a rich woman. Nian Gingchen finally calmed down. The guys still continued to vigorously discuss movements between worlds. Qin Chen asked how much Nian Gingchen paid. The guy shouted that he had already said that he was not a traveler. At that moment, strange sounds were heard coming from the corridor. All the students heard the sounds of footsteps. They turned around in surprise and looked at the people. The guys did not understand who these people were, because the head teacher personally accompanies them. It looks like they are going to a parallel class. Qin Chen realized that these were people from a mysterious organization, and they probably came for world travelers. It was a delegation of men in black. They all looked very important and were in formal suits. The appearance of the men in black quickly attracted the attention of most of the students, because their unique temperament is too conspicuous in a place like school. Qin Chen still remembers the feeling of oppression they gave him when they first met. Now, they really took Lu Dezhu away. But the organization that the head teacher will accompany must be official. The fact that they were not acting illegally was somewhat reassuring to Qin Chen. All the disciples watched carefully as Lu Dezhu was taken away by these people. To Qin Chen's surprise, when the first lesson was ending, Lu Dezhu returned again. According to him, after he was taken to the office, the men in black asked him to leave his address and contact information. He was told not to leave Luo City. The men in black told him that there were many travelers in this city and they were preparing a plan to bring them all together for training. After that, they also took out several photographs and asked him to determine whether he knew these people. It was assumed that the area of activity of one of the people should be within a radius of 3 kilometers, but since the area is old, in many places there are no cameras or they are broken. The person they were looking for was Qin Chen. Qin Chen put on clothes that he had not worn for 2 years and deliberately avoided surveillance cameras. It seems that all the precautions were not in vain. Nian Gingchen cried because someone, after moving, ended up next to the boss and also talked to him and perhaps one day will become a superhuman. He did not understand why the gap between people was so great. Qin Chen asked if he was jealous. Nian Gingchen asked if Qin Chen was jealous. He used to say that he would earn a lot of money and invite a friend to eat, but now it seems he can't. Qin Chen advised him to start studying, because there are a lot of ordinary people who live a good life. Nian Gingchen was depressed. he was clearly hiding something from his friend. The guys were the only ones who didn't pay for the textbooks. Qin Chen needed 2 more days. Nian Gingchen's mother was angry with his father and returned to his grandmother's house. He could only ask his father for money. Nian Gingchen's father told him to return the textbook to school. Qin Chen was surprised that the issue of paying for one textbook had stumped 2 world travelers. Qin Chen thought it was time to think about how to make money, because now all these old people have become smart and no one wants to play xiangqi with him. Therefore, Qin Chen needed to think about how to make money in the inner world and move it here. There was no reason to be near the treasure mountain, but Qin Chen did not want to return empty-handed over and over again. Qin Chen walked along a busy street. Various foods were being sold around: baked sweet potatoes, cake. It seems that lately the guy has become a habit of running away from classes. When Qin Chen was little, his mother would go to his grandmother's, and his father would take him outside and buy a bowl of rice noodles for 1.5 yuan. He hadn't gambled yet, he and his mother hadn't divorced, and his grandparents hadn't despised him yet. Rice noodles, which then cost 1.5 yuan, now cost 15. It looks like you can't get anything back. Qin Chen walked up to the house. Next to him were 2 dubious-looking men. They stood and smoked on the street. Qin Chen looked at them suspiciously. He had to be careful, because the organization was hunting him. At this moment, Qin Chen called Xiao Yun. She was very happy to see him and waved to the guy. The girl invited him to go upstairs. Her mother would finish cooking soon. Qin Chen asked what if he stayed at school for evening self-study. The girl knew that in recent days the guy had not been going to self-training. Xiao Yun pulled Qin Chen by the hand into her apartment. She was very glad that the guy would have dinner with them today. Qin Chen entered the apartment. He noticed that there was no more broken furniture in the house, and it seemed that many things had been replaced with new ones. Jiang Shui stood in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner. She asked if Qin Chen had come and told him to sit down quickly. She just had to finish the soup. Qin Chen looked at the prepared food. It was very tasty, and compared to the tasteless food I was in prison, this was a real improvement in nutrition. Qin Chen asked what Jiang Shui was celebrating. The woman had already said that she opened a mechanical clinic in the inner world. This clinic used to bother her a lot. When people came to her to install mechanical limbs, she didn't know what to do. The woman was very worried about her safety, because these people were very scary. The woman doesn't know how it happened, but this time, after moving, people from Li's consortium came to her small clinic and asked for a partnership. The consortiums in the inner world rule everything, and as long as he has his share, all criminals will bypass Jiang Shui. They also gave her money and replaced the sign with Li's logo. Qin Chen had already heard about the Li consortium. The guy was not sure if these were good changes. Qin Chen replied that this was indeed worth celebrating. Jiang Shui doesn't need to bother Qin Chen now, and Xiao Yun's grandparents don't need to come either. The woman asked if Qin Chen was jealous of the travelers. She said that if the guy ever moved, he could go to the city of 18 and find a woman who could protect him. Qin Chen thought that he was already in City 18 and it was a pity that ordinary people would not help in his situation, because what Qin Chen was facing had long ago surpassed the understanding of ordinary travelers. Qin Chen asked if those men in black were looking for Jiang Shui again. The woman replied that it was not they who were looking for her, she was looking for them. Before Jiang Shui received Qin Chen and Xiao Yun, she wanted to contact them and see if she could get their help in the inner world. They said that their organization had just been founded and it was still difficult for them themselves. Qin Chen had already had dinner. Jiang Shui began to wash the dishes for her guest. Qin Chen plopped down on the sofa where Xiao Yun was sitting. He asked if the girl was also a world traveler. Xiao Yun didn't understand what Qin Chen was talking about. The guy was confident in his assumption. Last time, the girl specifically asked her mother for the name of the clinic. As a result, this time the Li consortium acquired a stake in her clinic. Qin Chen threatened to tell Jiang Shui about these clues. Xiao Yun was scared and asked her not to tell her mother this. Qin Chen guessed correctly, so yesterday Qin Chen took advantage of the opportunity to ask Li Shuang for a list of members of the Li consortium, and there really is the name Li Tongyun. Qin Chen asked why the girl didn't tell her mother this. She replied that few people in the inner world dare to tell her, but if her mother finds out, she will definitely try to intervene. Xiao Yun asked not to tell this to her mother. She can give Qin Chen money, because she doesn't have much pocket money in the inner world. Qin Chen replied that he was not a traveler. The girl was not sure that Qin Chen was not a traveler. Qin Chen was not surprised that this girl suspected him, because he asked about everything. Fortunately he quickly refused the money. Qin Chen sat on the sofa with Xiao Yun, an awkward silence hanging in the air. Qin Chen asked how much pocket money the girl had in the outside world. Xiao Yun was surprised and asked if he wanted to take the money from the child. Qin Chen was simply interested. The girl really didn't have money in the outside world. She asked why Qin Chen didn't change the conditions. The guy asked how to do it. Xiao Yun didn't know. Qin Chen got up from the sofa and said that the girl should tell everything herself. He advised her not to forget to take care of her mother in the inner world, because that world is very confusing. Xiao Yun told the guy not to worry, and when Qin Chen has the opportunity to go to the inner world, she will protect him too. Qin Chen smiled, amused by the girl's bold stance. It was time for the guy to go home. He thoroughly enjoyed dinner and communication. Overall, today's evening was very beneficial for Qin Chen, and at least Xiao Yun's identity as a traveler was confirmed. Qin Chen read the news. They were selling drugs from the inner world. These were medicines for rejuvenation. They used unusual methods of transportation. They wrapped the medicine in protective film and put it in the mouth or inserted it into the rectum. To bring things from the inner world, these people directly used such extreme methods. If a rich man is dying of cancer and his only hope is a life-saving medicine from the inner world, then most likely he will pay a very high price for it. Qin Chen wondered what price could be equivalent to life. This was the goal of such people. They earned money in this way. While Qin Chen was thinking about how to become a superhuman, someone started a business. If he exchanges things directly, this will inevitably reveal his identity. Of course, you can transfer technology on a flash drive, but the traveler is unlikely to be able to obtain the most important technologies of the inner world. Until now, it has been difficult to even access outside information in this prison. The most important thing now for Qin Chen is to maintain a good relationship with Li Shutong. At this moment, something caught Qin Chen's attention and he had an idea. These mysterious organizations also purchased mechanical limbs. A few days ago, a traveler's legs were cut off, and now these people are buying them at exorbitant prices, so crimes against travelers will continue. Qin Chen remembered seeing two suspicious people near Xiao Yun's house this evening. The guy looked out of her window, hoping to see them. However, these two men disappeared. He suspected that they were also from the organization. Qin Chen called the police and gave his address. He explained that in the evening he met two very suspicious men and thought that they were up to something. At that moment, the guy heard screams from a neighboring apartment. It was Li Tongyan's voice. Qin Chen asked for a police squad to be sent immediately. He was very scared and thought that these people were here because of Jiang Shui. Qin Chen ran to inspect his apartment and look for any weapons. There was nothing in his house except a shovel. He grabbed her and was about to defend himself. At that moment the guy stopped. There were two adults in that apartment, maybe more. Qin Chen wasn't sure if he could handle them. His hands were shaking with fear. Qin Chen tried to come to his senses. He grabbed the handle of the shovel. He thought that he was not a good guy, and he was also very selfish, seeing his classmates going crazy in prison, but he simply cannot sit and watch a child like Xiao Yun face cruelty. The guy resolutely went to the girl's apartment. Qin Chen decided to go to Jiang Shui's apartment to help and protect her. As he climbed the stairs, he saw a man flying down. The man was completely beaten. He was lying unconscious on the stairs. Jiang Shui stood outside her apartment. The woman was shaking all over with fear, and there were also signs of beatings on her. Qin Chen looked at Jiang Shui in surprise. It seemed that the woman did not need the guy's help. Jiang Shui still thanked Qin Chen for his concern and for being willing to help her. Qin Chen asked if there was only one man here. The woman replied that there was another one, but he ran away. Xiao Yun was fine, but she was very scared. Qin Chen hurried down the stairs. He said that he had already called the police and asked them to take care of Xiao Yun. The guy ran out of the house with a shovel in his hands. He was about to run after the man who had run away. Unexpectedly for everyone, Qin Chen ran in the other direction from the man. He clearly had a plan. He wanted to run around the building from the other side and intercept the man there. The guy was determined. Qin Chen deftly jumped over the fence. He needed information from this man. Qin Chen slowed down and ran to his point according to his plan. Qin Chen hid behind the wall. He sat down and began to wait for the man. In fact, the guy was scared. He had never fought or chased anyone before. The guy raised the shovel. He was ready to hit the man with it. Qin Chen knew exactly how long it would take for this man to appear in front of him. 3 seconds left. Qin Chen clutched the shovel tighter. 2 seconds remained. And finally, the man was about to appear in front of Qin Chen, his heart pounding wildly. Qin Chen hit the man's legs with a shovel with all his strength. He tripped and fell. The man rolled down the street. Qin Chen quickly ran away from this place. Qin Chen returned to Jiang Shui's house. He walked up the stairs and saw Xiao Yun. The girl was very scared. She clung to her mother. Xiao Yun said that the second man ran away. However, Qin Chen told her not to worry because he had already found him. Jiang Shui noticed that Qin Chen's hand was injured. She was going to bring a bandage and iodine for him. Fortunately, there were no other wounds other than the hand. Qin Chen thought that after all, he was still an ordinary person. Now he had a powerful brain, but not a corresponding body. He told Jiang Shui not to worry, because he had all this at home. The police would be here soon, so the guy was going to return to his home. Qin Chen didn't want Jiang Shui to tell the police anything. He said that he didn't do anything tonight. The woman understood everything. She was surprised by Qin Chen's attitude. Qin Chen returned to his apartment. He believed that it was necessary to speed up the process of acquiring abilities in the inner world. Morning came. The sun broke through Qin Chen's window. Qin Chen was sleeping in his bed when he was suddenly awakened by loud screams. It was Xiao Yun. She was calling the guy. Qin Chen opened the door. The girl was very scared. She asked Qin Chen to help her mother. Qin Chen came to Jiang Shui's apartment. Her mechanical limbs were discharged. Qin Chen was surprised that they were not so durable. The woman explained that in the inner world there are sources of wireless charging and each person's equipment is constantly charged. Everyone has an account number for payment, just like an ID number. As long as people pay monthly, they can enjoy a comfortable life. And consortiums charge fees based on energy consumption. In the inner world there is a tower, a capacitor, which generates energy, and an ordinary tower, which transfers energy everywhere. Even in the wilderness there are cloud towers. But vehicles in the wild continue to be chosen with a diesel engine, especially by the military. After all, it has high energy, high speed and high torque. In fact, since smuggling is so common, getting out of the city is quite difficult. You need to go through customs set by the tax department and get a visa. But of all the information available today, the most useful is that hard currency in the domestic world is also gold. The banks of the 5 largest consortiums actually issue currencies based on gold reserves. Qin Chen smiled. He had finally learned how to make money in the inner world. Qin Chen asked how he could help in this situation. The woman replied that because of her hands, she would not be able to cook for Xiao Yun today. So Jiang Shui wanted to ask Qin Chen to take care of her. Xiao Yun asked Qin Chen to cook something for her, because she was hungry. Qin Chen said that it was not a problem. At this moment, someone knocked on Jiang Shui's door, asking if anyone was home. Qin Chen noticed a mysterious organization's SUV on the street. Qin Chen ordered Xiao Yun to open the door for the guests, and he would go to the kitchen to prepare food. The girl thanked him. Xiao Yun opened the door. There were men in formal suits from a mysterious organization standing there. One of them introduced himself. His name was Lu Yuan. They had already met. These men were members of Kunlun. Qin Chen finally heard the name of their organization. Lu Yuan asked what happened to the woman's hands. She replied that the mechanical limbs had also run out of charge. Lu Yuan told his assistant to take note of this. The second man began to write something down in a notebook. Qin Chen realized that the men did not know that mechanical limbs could be discharged by their organization and the truth could be formed only recently, so they know little about the inner world. Xiao Yun, as her mother asked, brought 2 glasses of water for the guests. The members of the organization wanted to ask them something. Li Yuan noticed that there were 2 guys here last night, and after one of them ran away from their house, he was attacked in their neighborhood and his shin was broken. Li Yuan asked if they knew who did it. Qin Chen became very tense. Li Yuan said not to worry, because they were not here to prosecute, they just wanted to find out.